Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 266. It's spring here in the Midwest. Feels good. Feels good.
Feels great.
Yeah. Feels real good. Nate, how are you?
Good. Spent almost my entire day sitting outside.
That's right. You're off on Wednesdays.
Yep.
That is nice. This is a beautiful day.
Yeah. So
78, I think it was, or something like that.
At least, yeah.
In Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah, it was nice. So yeah, spent about an hour just sitting outside in the sun, and then I didn't want to get fried, so then I moved to my patio, my covered patio, and continued to smoke more cigars and drink coffee and about a gallon of water.
Man, what a Wednesday!
Is this your first whiskey today?
Yes. This is my first alcoholic beverage today.
I guess I didn't specify, but I mean, there was no judgment. I was just asking.
I know. I've had a gallon of water, 2 cups of coffee, and an espresso.
So Nate will be in the bathroom for most of part one. I think. We are joined tonight, first-time guest, but not the first from where he is coming from Watershed Distillery. We have Ryan Venrick. And Ryan, welcome to the studio / garage / I don't know.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Projector room.
It's great. Happy to be here.
Happy to have you. You are the cask manager for Watershed.
Yes.
And you've been with them for a couple of years.
Yep.
Before I get into the sponsors, really briefly, just give us a summary, because when we have people on from different distilleries, especially like maybe some of the, I don't want to say Watershed small, but like more of the
local,
not bourbon, like bourbon country, as they call it, like down in Kentucky. But everyone has to figure out what their title actually is. Yeah. That happened last week with Adam and Tony. A few years ago when Greg was on from Watershed and Ann was on Andemic, it was like they were remote, and it's like, so Ann, what's your title? And yeah, Greg, what is my title? It's like this type of a thing. So you're the cask manager at Watershed Distillery.
Yeah. So for me, that just encompasses all the things that go on in my day-to-day job. So cask manager, basically I summarize it to everybody. Anything that goes into a barrel at Watershed falls into my department.
Okay.
So I take care of all of our bourbon portfolios, our bourbon barrel gin, our finished products. So our 5-year Nocino finished bourbon and our 6-year apple brandy finished bourbon.
Love them.
I get to manage and blend and plan for all of those products as Watershed grows and develops.
That's a hell of a gig.
Yeah.
Hell of a gig.
It's
like
tough,
that.
But somebody's got to do it, right?
I guess. Before we get any further, I do want to thank everyone out there. Patreon.com/Bourbon and BS podcast. That's your monthly contributions. You guys keep this thing going. We really appreciate all that support, continued support. $5, $10, or $25, a month. If you guys want to contribute, you can do it 1 month. You can do it multiple months. Keep it going, whatever. We appreciate all that. Helps us stream it. Takes care of all the small bills here to do this as a side project. Also, if you want to just do a one-time contribution, you want to grab us a bottle or even just say, hey, can you guys buy this bottle? Or hey, I just want to throw you guys $10 or whatever. Venmo at Bourbon and BS, and that'll get us any funds that you guys want to contribute. And if you have a specific bottle or whatever you want us to spend it on, just put that in the notes. They got messages on Venmo, but that's great. So we appreciate all you guys supporting it that way, and also sharing it. Liking it, reviewing it, joining the Bourbon and BS community page on Facebook. You can follow the Bourbon and BS podcast on Instagram or Facebook itself as well. And then we do stream this on YouTube. So if you guys have people that, I don't do social media, you can find it on YouTube. So you can always share that video as well. It streams live on there. We try to look at all the comments. But we do want to thank Tinderbox at Easton in Columbus, Ohio. Tonight we're going to be smoking along with this. I'm going to wait to light it up here a little bit, get into the bottle. But the Ramon Allones, this is going to be from AJ Fernandez. And this is a blend. We'll get into it. Again, this is going to be more bourbon heavy show for part one. But I do love this cigar. And I do love favorites. Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love the Ramon Allones, which I think I have that box from, Havana up there. That was the first. I mean, totally different cigar, but same namesake that I bought when I was down there. That was the first box of cigars I bought in Cuba. Altadis USA, we've got the H. Upman again, Nicaragua, also by AJ Fernandez. This is a great second cigar if you guys get into it tonight, just because it's medium-bodied, good flavor. I think it stands up to a full-bodied cigar. If you had a mild cigar first, it's just a great, just middle of the road as far as strength, and I think the flavor is just great on that one as well. So thank you, Altadis USA, for the continued support. with the second featured cigar and the annual sponsorship. And also Be a Cigar Company. The gold and silver are available. The gold is made by Placencia and the silver is made by Espinosa. Those are available at the Tinderbox at Easton and a handful of other shops. If you guys are interested in trying those cigars or stocking up on those, make sure you stop by Tinderbox at Easton, or they can also ship to you as well. But we are really looking forward to seeing you guys join the show here. And if you want to wear some of the swag, Nate's got the BS Cigar Company 3/4 raglan on, the gray and the black. And I've got the, this was a special Patty's Day in 2022. The Pour One More, Light Up Another. We'll figure this out together. Podcast shirt. You can find most of this stuff, not the green, but similar shirts that I have on and Nate has on there. Buyjack.com. That's byjack.com/bourbon and BS for any of the swag. All right. It's enough business. Ryan, you said this is your first time doing a podcast.
Yeah, this is my first time.
Not to throw you under the bus to the audience. I should have. Yeah. You do this all the time.
Yeah, all the time.
All the time.
I also told them before we started that cigars are not my forte, so these guys will have to lead me through it here.
Just don't puke.
Yeah, that's bad. That's good advice, Nate. Good advice. Do not puke. And if you do, we'll grab you. I got a couple trash cans out here. It's fine. But happy to have you on. This is something exciting. So we're excited to have not only Watershed back on the podcast, but something very exciting is happening. And it starts with this bottle that we have here. Tell us about the bottle, and then we're going to talk about how people can get it, and then we're just going to kind of talk about what we think of it. But what are we drinking tonight? What's the featured bottle?
Yeah, so this is our newest limited release, Batch 1, Uncut Unfiltered. So this is coming straight out of the barrel into our collection tote. Hook that collection tote up to our bottling line, and away we go.
1 barrel?
So it's a blend of 10 barrels.
10 barrels.
Yeah.
So overall, it's the average of the proof of all those barrels put together.
Correct. Yeah. So of all those barrels in there, each one is a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not all going to be the exact same proof, but once you combine all 10 together, that's the proof that you end up with.
Yeah, and this you said it's what do we say? 100 and what? 20
126.8.
126.8. Thanks for that. Multiplying that by 2. You threw in 0.4.
Yeah, it's in the ABV on the bottle.
Yeah.
We like to speak in proof at the distillery.
As always, love the marketing. You guys have definitely just this overall image of the Watershed bourbons is just fantastic. I love that.
A fantastic marketing team. I know they worked really hard on it.
New color.
Yes.
New color label. This does stand out from all the other Watershed products. The rye was a different color as well, that blue. And now we have, is this, what do we call this? Just yellow? Gold?
I mean, so I'm calling it yellow.
All right. I'm calling it yellow.
Just don't call it maize.
Yeah. I'm sure someone from Watershed will correct me later, but that's the color that I'm calling
it. As long as you don't call it maize, you're good.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
not around Columbus, Ohio. But yeah, this is going to be a special project. You said 10 barrels. This project, this bottle is the first time you're doing the Uncut Unfiltered. So it's very, very exciting. I want to get into more of what that means and how that, is different for those that don't really drink a lot of bourbon, those that are getting into it, or they see, you see barrel strength, you see cask strength, you see all the different, I guess, the different mashes, the sour mash and the charcoal filter, non-charcoal filter, like all these things that there is meaning behind it. But the way you're going to be able to get this is on April 22nd.
Yes. Yeah. So April 22nd, you can get it at our first festival of the season, BourbonFest. I want to say it's going to be a fantastic time, live music, lots of great food, lots of great drinks. Not only bourbon, we'll have cocktails and stuff there as well. So if you don't really like bourbon, still come on out. We'll get you a nice drink. There's going to be lots of tours. Like I said, live music. We've got Year of the Buffalo coming in.
Angela Purley. I saw that. I
Yeah.
saw her years ago. She is
Angela Purley in the Howlin' Moon.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Year of the Buffalo. This is $30 per person. So this is, you have to be in the Columbus area. So I know a lot of our listeners aren't in the Columbus area, but if you are, definitely check this out. In the Columbus area. So it's $30. That gets you. You mentioned some of the cocktails and some pours, but the $30 gets you 3 $10 tickets. So basically, it's not just admission. You are actually getting something even more for your price of admission.
Absolutely.
You get 3 of those tickets, each good for 1 cocktail or food item.
Yes.
So I assume you're gonna have a special menu of appetizers and stuff like that.
Yeah, so there'll be some little. I know Chef Maddie in the restaurant does a fantastic job. He's gonna have a lot of stuff for us. I know the big thing on the menu is gonna be ribs. There's a lot of ribs, barbecue ribs. So come on out and get some of that from Chef. Some other finger foods and stuff going on. Yeah, big plans for everyone all the way around, kitchen and bar and the distillery.
And you can go online at watersheddistillery.com to get those tickets. And I know when you do that, you can also do two things. You can, well, first of all, you can buy more, reserve more $10 food, drink tickets prior to that, just so that you guys can help plan on the ribs and how many to make. But also you can pre-buy this bottle.
Yes, absolutely. So when you buy a ticket to BourbonFest, you can also reserve your bottle of Uncut Unfiltered. So yeah, definitely do that. Pickup will also be that day. So if you reserve a bottle, come on in, enjoy the experience and grab your bottle on the way out.
Yeah. And so for those, it's $69.99. I'm just getting all the kind of the nuts and bolts out of the way for people that are tuning in early here. It's $69.99 plus tax, and you can buy that pre-sale right on the website.
Yes, correct.
And then you'll have all your information. And then with that, though, I know that there's some people like myself and Nate, we can't go. We have to work. So it's like, well, I'm kind of bummed out. First of all, I'm going to miss the event, but I'm also going to maybe be bummed out because I think I might want to do another bottle of this.
Yeah.
That I want to do that. But I think you can pick it up after the fact.
Yes. So you can order it now and pick it up at BourbonFest, or like you said, Steve, if scenario comes around, you can't come. You have a little bit of time to come pick it up. So you have until May 4th.
May 4th.
Yes. You can order it now. All the way May 3rd comes around, you can still come to the distillery and pick it up.
And this is me saying it. If something comes up you're planning on doing on May 3rd, May 4th, I'm not saying they're going to hold it, but call them and say, hey, something came up. I want to come in May 5th, May 6th. And that's because I keep pushing it back. But the people at Watershed are usually really good about, working with you if you can't get in during their business hours. Because I know it's sometimes difficult to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Amy Jones, that's in our bottle shop, kind of oversees all that, does great work.
She's gonna be mad though. You said, well, we can pick it up whenever. Next September. I'll see you next year.
Yeah, no, she does great work.
Saying that.
I'm waiting for her to mess.
I don't work for them. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Just give her a call in the bottle shop. She'll make sure she gets everything squared away, takes care of you.
Yeah, perfect. All right, well, let's jump into this. We've already taken a few sips of this, but let's talk about this. What do we think, Nate? What do you think?
A few sips. I'm like,
all right. Well, I'm sorry. Then you talk a little bit. I'm sorry. You're sitting over there drinking. That's fine. Whatever.
Yeah, that's what I do over here on the side of the table.
What do you think of this?
No, on the nose, it kind of stuck out. And we have Eric Goldhaber in the studio audience, who has an amazing nose when it comes for
and a good sense of smell.
When it comes to smelling spirits, because he's not a drinker, but he's got a great nose for coffee, cigars, and whiskey. So I don't know what he got. He'll probably tell us later. But for me, it kind of smelled like a caramel chew candy, like one of those caramel chews. That sweetness, but then it almost has a texture to it, like like one of the Werther's caramel chews.
Werther's.
The caramel chews, not the original butterscotch hard candies. All right, easy with the jokes.
I didn't know Werther's made other candies.
Yes, you did.
I didn't actually. It's like a Carlton chew, not an old school candy.
That is an old school.
I've never heard of that one.
How old are you, Ryan?
Not old enough, apparently.
I mean, I didn't go buy it for a nickel on the corner. All right, so you got caramel. I
caramel
say
chew.
I try to say it like
tomato. Right?
Yeah.
But on the palate, I got some really bright apple on the palate, and then a lot of baking spice. Especially on the finish, and it just kind of hangs around and lingers on your palate.
See, I get a little bit of that fruit in the nose too, though. And I know this is a little higher proof than some people don't drink this high proof stuff. Again, we've had higher. You guys have put out higher.
Yeah, I've got a Watershed 142.
But it's got a little.
We got some single barrels that get up there.
It's got a little bit of a sting even on the nose.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's super bright. This was a lot of fun to create. When marketing came to me and said, "Hey, this is what we want to do," it was kind of intimidating because, we've got all these bourbon portfolios already. We've got the 4-year, we've got the bottled and bond, we've got the single barrels. It starts to get really difficult to, when you're creating a new product, batch one, how my first thought was, okay, how am I going to make this different?
Yeah.
From what we already have. So yeah, this was a lot of fun to create. It's very bright for me.
Adding more shit to the table.
That's a great bottle too.
Yeah.
Yeah, super fun to play around with and make. And when I asked for some direction, I went to Tom Montler, our supply chain manager. He does a great job. We kind of all talked together and worked together. And I said, guys, like, where do we want to go with this? And the consensus really was, I'm not sure. Let's ask Greg. So then we went to Greg.
Yeah.
And Greg was like, well,
Greg is the co-founder, right? Or
yes,
founder?
Yes. Co-founder of Watershed. Yeah. So we took it to Greg, and Greg's like, you know what? Just make the best blend you can. And so when I heard that, then it was playtime.
I was going to say, how do you take that as direction?
Yeah. So I took that
like,
really
don't
positively.
fuck up, or is it just like, we trust you?
It's
it
with
can go
Greg,
a lot of different ways.
It's always trust.
Okay,
Greg is fantastic.
Yeah.
He's very supportive, kind of, lets us off the leash, so to speak. It's
good.
As far as the production team goes, and just puts a lot of trust in us to do our thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what I did with this. So yeah, I started tasting through some barrels and found this really specific note that I liked. I was like, man, I wonder if that's in others, single barrel. It's hard to find that same note, but the more I started digging, I started finding
You're going
more.
barrel by barrel, basically taking more notes, because I know you're familiar with a lot of the barrels, but that's what you're saying. You taste a single barrel, you're like, okay.
Exactly. That's this process. So you go, I go one barrel at a time. So
we don't go. We'd love to.
I'd love to have you guys out.
Hey, if you ever need help picking barrels.
Yeah. So I sampled about 45 barrels for this blend.
45.
Yeah,
okay.
About 45, and then settled on 10 of them. But yeah, I found this really specific. It's almost like I've heard and I get tropical fruit. So take that as you will.
On the palate? Or,
on the palate, on the nose, all the way around.
So we're getting a little bit of that.
Yeah. So I picked up on that and was like, man, that is amazing. And was lucky enough to find a few more barrels with that similar note. And then when you combine those 10 barrels together, it just makes magic.
So yeah, what is the problem? Was the goal 10, or how does the math work when you're doing this? Is it about the yield of what the project you want to do, or is it about you pick, you're like, I'm going to do 5 to 10 barrels?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's
a give and take. For limited releases like this, we try to stick to a set amount.
Okay.
So with this, I knew going in that I had to find 10 barrels.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of sets up how many I want to sample from.
Based on how many bottles you are doing for this project.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So typically for me, the more barrels that I have going into a blend, the more I've got to sample from.
Okay.
So when we start getting to our bottled and bond blend averages about 17 barrels per batch.
Bottle and bond.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when I'm sampling for that, I'll pull 50 to 60 samples for that. Now I don't have to do that every time. Obviously, as I taste through them and the barrels that don't make the cut,
you have your notes.
Exactly. Yeah. We have a system in place, a database that I have all the barrel numbers in, and I'll just go through and make little notes, what proof it is, what kind of nose it has, what kind of palate it has. And that kind of helps me out as I get further along into our stock, because then I don't have to taste the same barrel over and over and over and over.
Enough time goes by, right? Then you will have to go back in and see how it's changed. That's part of the process. You should have similar notes, but it could change over. Like if you go back to it in a year,
exactly,
it's going to be a different product.
Yeah,
to a point.
Yeah, absolutely. So my process is so our white dog goes into a barrel, and I'm going to monitor that barrel for about every 3 months.
Okay.
For the first year of its life. And then year 2 and 3, I'll just check on it once a year just to see how it's developing. And then by year 4, that's when I start to push them into certain categories. Like I'll taste this barrel. That's a good bottled and bond barrel. I'll push it into this category. This one, maybe it needs a little more time. We'll throw it into the 4-year section.
Okay.
We'll see how it develops. So it's a lot of work. And I did see a question. Somebody asked.
I was going to put it up on there.
Somebody asked how long it takes to taste 45 barrels. So it usually takes me start to finish when I have to do a blend. Like I was telling these guys, it depends on the size of the batch. But usually I dedicate about a week and a half to 2 weeks, start to finish. So when Tom comes to me and says, hey, we need another bottled and bond blend ready to go. Usually about 2 weeks from when he tells me to when the barrels are getting dumped. is the amount of time it
So
takes
you're
me.
not sitting there tasting 45 barrels in one day.
Exactly.
Good.
Yes.
It's a
Yes.
really long lunch.
Yeah.
I like to eat
Yeah.
while I do it.
Yeah, for sure.
know.
Definitely. It takes a little bit of time, but not near as much time as one would think.
So that's a good follow-up there. For a project like this, he says, part 2, is he looking for similarities or contrast? I don't know if this is what, Ray, you mean, but this is something where it's like for this one, when you said you had this note, right? You kind of like with this project, you found this note, which was what again?
Yeah, so it's like that really bright tropical fruit note.
Okay. So when you're saying I got to get 10, to his point, are you looking for some that you're like, all right, I have it in this barrel and I'm looking for 9 others that are going to be similar? Or are you looking for like a kind of a recipe? Because we've talked to some other distilleries where they, was barrel spirits, if you know barrel craft spirits.
Yeah, they do.
So they do a lot of this with like they source a bunch, right?
Yeah.
But when we talk to them, they're saying like they're trying to make almost like a recipe, like it's a lot of hit or miss.
Exactly.
So
No,
is that what you're doing here? That you're like, all right, I have these ingredients or flavor notes, and I want to complement it with these flavor notes and see how it goes together, or are you trying to make it more of a consistent 10 barrels?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Yeah, so it's more of, like you were touching on, it's more like a recipe.
Okay.
So what I'm doing is I'll find, 2 or 3 barrels, 5 or 6, whatever that number is, of just a good base to work with. So if I'm creating a blend, I'll find that magic number of barrels like, okay, this is solid whiskey. And then I'll build around that. So I'll try to find barrels that are, this one's really heavy on like the sugary, fruity notes.
Okay.
And then I'll try to balance that out. I'll try to find one, it has more tobacco, more leather. So yeah, it's like building a recipe.
Okay.
If you get a bunch of barrels that all have the same flavor, so say, like I said, I found that really specific note and I've tried to just keep pumping that same note into the blend, you're going to get a really, really sweet, unbalanced whiskey.
Okay.
So you want to kind of build around that base to, balance it out. You don't want it to be too sweet. You don't want it to, taste like a Dusty or anything. Well, unless you're going for that portfolio, but it all just depends.
Do you do on this, something like where you got your original barrel? That's like, this is what I want ideally. Do you then you sample like, all right, barrel number 2, I'm going to add a little bit of barrel 1 to that, and you guys go along that way? And what else do I add? Or is it because I'm not trying to maybe overcomplicate this, but there's a lot of ways that I can envision this. And Nate, I don't know if you think the same, where it's like, you just take the notes and then you just put all 10 together. You're like, yep, that's it. Or do you like, all right, we got 5 that are going well together. All right, let's find 6.
Yeah.
And then you know what I mean? Like you don't want to waste a lot of product, but you kind of in that lab mentality are like, so like, all right, 8, that wasn't the right one to add to this. Let's find another number 8.
Yeah.
Or let's switch out number 5. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like a process of not just tasting them and then going off your notes and be like, yep, 1, 6, 9, 22. Like these are the 10 barrels.
Right. Yeah. So to answer your question really quickly, that's how we do it at Watershed right now. So to keep it really simple, if they tell me that we have to put 10 barrels in a blend, I find 10 barrels that I really like that blend together, and then those all get dumped into a collection. That's it. Yeah, that's sort of
you don't do a small sample before you go.
So I will. In. Yeah. Also, I'll put together like a small, like little 375 of the blend with equal parts.
Okay.
But obviously, once you start dumping the barrels, there's different amounts in each one. So what I try to do is I try to find barrels that have similar fill levels. So sometimes I'll run into the scenario where I'll pull a sample from a barrel, but it's only half full. I won't use that sample.
Okay.
Because that's going to drastically change what the end product is because the fill levels aren't close enough.
And for the listeners and viewers, why would they be at different fill levels?
So that has to do with angel share.
Okay.
So if you don't know what angel share is, that is evaporative loss that happens to a barrel over time. So once it's full, 53 gallon standard barrel, as soon as you put the liquid in there, it's going to start losing just from evaporation, over time, the whiskey refluxing in and out of the staves of the wood. Some of that stuff gets trapped. So over time, that barrel gets less and less and less full.
So the age of the barrel, typically, you're not like I was familiar with it. I just want everyone to know, like, are you taking some out, like a half a barrel when you dump that, or is it just purely the age of the barrel?
No,
and how much is gone?
That's a great question. So we are dumping straight just barrel for barrel. That's sort of an archaic way to do it. Sometimes if you're not really paying attention, like I said, if you get that half full barrel and you dump it in, it's going to mess up your blend.
Sure.
So like I said, I really try to monitor, make sure all the barrels are similarly full. But now if you go to a lot of the bigger places, you know, they have whole teams and whole departments of people of me. Yes. Like
they've got
15,
20 of you.
Yes. They have 15 people to do this. And then they get on that scale where, okay, we want 25 proof gallons out of this barrel. We want 17 proof gallons out of this barrel.
Okay.
So they have
breaking the recipe down even further.
Exactly.
Okay.
They can hone it into exactly the flavors that they want.
That's interesting.
But yeah, for us on such a small scale, we can get close enough that we just go barrel for barrel, and I try to make sure that
all in, baby.
I try to make sure that happens.
Let's go. You say you got that? What's tropical fruit?
Yeah. Like I get like a really, like it's like almost like a pineapple or like a mango. So super light, like summer fruit.
Yeah. It is different. It's not your typical what you get. Like, you know, we get a lot of the you know, cherry notes and some citrus and apple, sometimes, you know, the orange. But I think, yeah, I can see that. It's funny because when I took a sip, I think this is before we went live, it was kind of like, I'm trying to place it.
Yeah.
It's not like fruity, you know, it's more of like more of like the way, like when you say like mango and stuff, to like a medium heat salsa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, you know, you have like, I got a mango or pineapple salsa. Like if it's like super mild salsa, it's all fruit.
Yeah.
But if you have like more of a medium to hot,
like a
pineapple,
mango habanero.
Yeah.
salsa.
Like it's like, yeah, well, there's a sweetness. Oh shit, that's hot. You know what I mean? Like you get like it's like, oh wow, this is shit.
Yeah. That's how
then
this
you put
is.
another chip in and you keep eating it because you want to like keep going.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
When it first hits your palate, it welcomes you in, and then it just burns the back.
And I'm not saying this does. But
just
it's
like
that kind of a
just
fruit
that
note.
heat
It's not like fruity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amy chimed in here and said pepper jam.
Pepper jam.
Which is something we came up with when we were developing.
What does that mean exactly? Like a black pepper? Or
Yeah,
just like or like spicy peppers?
Yeah, like pepper jelly almost is the resounding note that we got when we were, you know, testing this and product
like you're
launching
making
it.
jelly from habanero peppers.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a good bottle. This is something. Now you have on there, which I noticed you don't have on that I remember. Char 5 barrels.
Yeah.
Very specific on this bottle. Is it on any of your other back labels?
No. So we wanted to include that just to, you know, kind of give Watershed stamp on our flavor profiles. So we're kind of atypical when we fill our whiskey into Char 5s. Typically you see Char 3 and 4s.
Yeah.
At the bigger places, you know, when they're doing their blends, it's almost exclusively in Kentucky, Char 3 and Char 4.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to kind of, you know, step out of bounds when Greg and Dave Rigo, when they started the company, you know, they didn't want to do the middle of the road like everybody else. So they landed on Char 5. And I think it gives us a really unique flavor once our bourbon starts to hit, you know, that 4, 5, 6 year mark.
Yeah.
It gets pretty unique.
Yeah, it does. And I thought that was really unique that it was on there. Ray asking again, we went over that. I'm sorry, Ray. Do you have a number of barrels that you're aiming for? Or do you just keep going until you hit your target? It was more on the yield of what the project is different every time. He had stated that this time it's going to be because of how many goal bottles, right? How many cases of bottles.
Right. Obviously, we want to put out a good product.
Yeah.
But we also have to make money on it. So there is that, you know, that give and take of, you know, I think this blend is really good at 5 barrels, but sales says I have to hit this number of barrels.
Right.
So it's a give and take. It just depends. It just so happened that this blend ended up on 10 barrels.
Yeah. So pass me the bottle. I'm going to have a little bit more if I could. What's the big difference here and it's funny because Wes, who's been on Clodfelter, he says, is that Tajin? Tajin mango pepper is what I get. Does anyone see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I see it.
What's Tajin? Does anyone know? Or is that a typo? Or I
No,
may not be smart.
That's correct.
Here.
It's
I don't have a good
it's a
vocabulary.
very specific I don't remember.
Mango?
Yeah, Wes, it's not mango. Yeah, I think Wes actually came up with that note. But yeah, I'm not sure exactly what that is.
Tahine. Thank
That's
you, Amy.
The word of the night.
Silent J.
Yeah.
Soft J. Sorry. Soft J. Tahine.
It's actually a brand name. It's a brand
of what?
Of season. All right. The #1 chili lime seasoning in the U.S. market.
So I wasn't that far off with this whole salsa.
Yeah, no, you were very close, actually.
Wow. All right.
Steve got one.
Got one. Hey, 1 out of 256 ain't bad. All right.
Cheers to that.
Let's eat some Mexican food. All right. It's a spice. Who's Callie out here? Callie Hazel.
That's my fiance, actually.
All right.
Shout out to Kaylee. Love you, babe.
Kaylee, sorry. Kristen says chili spice. Amy says it's Spanish. LOL. OL. OL.
Yeah, there's a lot of LOLs on
There's
that.
a lot of laughing out loud at me. That's cool. That's fine. That's whatever. I just work here.
Trust me, I see her every day. It never stops.
You guys have on here the Uncut Unfiltered. So if you could kind of explain it in more detail, why that's so important to what you did with this project versus what other projects you guys have. Like, what do you have over there? The 5 years at the
Nocino finish batch 3.
Or on the table, we have a single barrel pick that you guys have. We also have on the table your kind of core line 4-year blended bourbon. But on here, it says very plain, this is what it's called, the Uncut Unfiltered. So why is that the project name of this?
So we really wanted to do something that not a lot of distilleries are doing. So if you look around the market, there's really it's not a saturated market with Uncut Unfiltered.
Right.
I know Smoke Wagon does a really good Uncut Unfiltered.
E.H. Taylor's got a nice one.
E.H. Taylor has one.
Remember
Booker's.
Three Boys Farms?
Yeah.
Yeah, Booker's does
shit
one.
floating around in
So
it.
yeah, so we really wanted to try and find a spot where we could highlight a great product and do something that not everyone's doing.
Okay. That's cool. And it says on the back of the bottle, it does give a little bit of a description for you guys. And I think you have some of the literature on your website as well. But creating whiskey means mastering the elements within your control, being your own critic, and accepting that the barrel has the final say despite your efforts. This rare bourbon spends over 4 years on our Ohio-made Char 5 barrels until it is ready to be bottled without added water or filtration. Each bottle arrives to you as it was in the barrel, untouched, unbothered, uncut, and unfiltered. And this is bottle number 2141 that I have here. And you have on, like I said, on the back, Ohio-made barrels, Char 5.
Yeah.
And then, I just love this.
Can you explain to our listeners what Char 5 is?
Yeah.
Like
versus the 3 or 4.
Because we've been to some distilleries and they, do char, like you said, they do Char 3, Char 4. And I think that's what a lot of bourbon drinkers are familiar with. So what is 5?
Yeah, absolutely. So what a lot of people don't know is that char level is, it kind of just depends on what cooperage you're coming from. So different cooperages have different standards for different char levels, but universally, when you hear Char 3, Char 4, sometimes you'll hear Char 2, there is a set standard for that. And what that is, so they literally burn the inside of the barrel. They're putting a char layer in there. And then the number represents how much time the barrel is spent under flame. So generally the char layer goes into the wood about 5 millimeters. Generally speaking, it just depends on, barrel to barrel. There can be some variation.
Sure.
But generally it's about 5 millimeters. And then the number on the barrel correlates to the burn time. And again, it depends on the cooperage, what their standard is for that. I know out of Speyside, their standard Char 5 takes flame for almost about 2 minutes.
That's a long time.
It's about 120 seconds. Yeah. And that's start to finish. So that's first flame to final quench is about 120 seconds.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, so that gives us a really nice char layer for nice filtration over that span.
It's cool if you guys go to some distilleries, they will have some examples of the barrel char.
Old Forester.
Yeah, Nate and I went to Old Forester a couple years ago, and that was really interesting to see how they had the different staves there of what each char level looked like.
Absolutely.
And I think 4 was like the most common. You said 3 and 4.
Yeah.
4, is that the one which one's called Alligator?
So that's Char 4 and Char 5.
Yeah, so that's where it's real kind of like, as they say, like scaly, right?
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Like real rough.
Exactly. Yeah, if you look at that
very
that stave,
dark.
Char 4 gets kind of close, but if you open up one of our Char 5 barrels, you'll see that scaling throughout the entire surface of that barrel.
Yeah, char the shit out of it. That's why it's Char 5.
Exactly.
Do they do more than 5, or is 5 the top?
So
I'm sure someone's fucked around with it.
I'm sure. Yeah. So Buffalo Trace
did
did
Char 10. Like that's it's interesting. That's really
one
unique.
season it's leaking out of the barrel.
Yeah. So Buffalo Trace, actually, I read an article. They did an experiment with a Char 7 barrel.
Okay.
So they flamed that barrel for almost 3.5 minutes.
Okay.
They got it to the point where it almost didn't hold liquid anymore, and then they decided to put bourbon in it. I don't know what happened with that project. They might still be working on that, but yeah, some stuff like that does exist. I'm sure they get special orders and things like, hey, can you give us a char 7, char 8?
A char 15.
Yeah. The deepest you can make.
Sure. Just pour ash into some white dog.
Right, yeah. I'll give you some charcoal.
That's right. Yeah. We're almost getting to that point.
Mm-hmm.
I do like this. Go ahead, Nate. Sorry.
What is the average age of the 10 barrels in this project?
So these are a little bit older, actually. So I was able to pull from our older stocks. Most of these barrels were almost 5 years old.
Okay.
Yeah. So these predominantly came from the spring of 2018 season.
And you guys aren't messing around with anything less than 4 years right now.
Correct.
From a bourbon level.
Our minimum standard is 4 years. We don't put anything. We don't release anything less than 4 years.
So none of this is the old stuff that might still have that Ohio spelt.
Yes. No. All of that. All those stocks. There's still a few barrels of our 6-year apple brandy finish that might have the spelt in it, but across the other products, the spelt is no more.
And are these this is your juice?
Yes. Yeah. This is all Watershed products.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's something that is really, I think at this point, it's not unique, but it's neat to talk about with Watershed. We've had you guys on before as a distillery and different guests, and just to see the growth over the last we've been doing this for 5 years. I think Watershed first came on probably 3 years ago or so.
Mm-hmm.
And just to talk about the growth of the distillery when you guys hit your 10-year mark. And then now, I know when you rebranded and redid the 4-year that's on the table there.
Mm-hmm.
Let me move the banner here for people to see it.
That's the short little stubby bottle in the middle.
Yeah, it's not that short. But it's the one with what color is that exactly? What do we call that?
I would call that
this one here.
Yeah, I'd call that red.
It's reddish.
Reddish.
But that's the 4-year, and you guys introduced one of the parts of the 3 is going to be an MGP product, right?
Yeah.
Which was a unique move for you guys to do because you were trying to do it all in house. But I mean, that's a great everyday core product for sure.
Yeah.
But all the rest of your bourbons are all your juice, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So the 4-year has that the MGP in it. Obviously, craft distillery, you just can't produce enough to get it aged and release the quantity that you need for it to be all your juice. So we do use some MGP in our 4-year. But across our other products, it is all Watershed products. So the bottled and bond is all Watershed barrels.
Yeah.
The 6-year, the 5-year, that's all distilled and aged at Watershed Distillery.
Yeah. And if you guys are in the area or you're visiting Columbus at any time, definitely check them out. You're in the Grandview area. Is that what that's considered, right?
Yes.
Columbus, Grandview area, Chesapeake.
Yeah, just south of New Albany.
No.
Or Upper Arlington.
Upper
Arlington.
It's like it is south, but it's a little west.
No,
too.
Upper Arlington.
They got a different highway there, but
they're gonna cut me off soon.
No. And Dimmick says it's the same color as the old Watershed bottle. I know that. I didn't know what you guys called it. It's like it's red, but it's not like a deep red, not fire engine red.
Yeah.
It's like red with a little salmon.
Easy going red.
Yeah, it's nice. It's salmon. See, look at that.
Yeah, salmon's a little pink.
It's like red with salmon in it.
All right,
we've got a bunch of those bottles at home, so she knows what it looks like.
I'm sure.
I've got one too.
Weird.
I've got a single barrel that still had that label on it.
Nice. Sunburst red, Ray says. All right. Sorry I asked. But I appreciate everyone chiming in there on that. This is, Glenn says, great information on barrel char. That was good information on there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you've got, do we know how many bottles? I'm sure you do, but so the people that are going to be signing up to go either to BourbonFest or to reserve their bottle and get it between that and it's 22nd and May 4th. How many bottles are available? Yeah,
so we did enough. We got about 1,600 bottles.
Okay.
So we should have enough. If you buy a ticket to BourbonFest, reserve your bottle, you're guaranteed going to get one.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on, who doesn't pick up, you might be lucky enough. If you don't come to BourbonFest, you don't reserve a bottle, you might be able to stop over and get lucky enough to grab one.
Yeah, I'm not going to encourage that. But again, I would say go on watersheddistillery.com and at least do the bottle. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like buy the tickets if you guys are free that day, but don't wait if you want to try the bottle, because I was telling a lot of people at the Tinderbox, some of the shop that we were doing this, and they're all talking. I've got some of our customers that already have tickets going down there A couple of them are like, yeah, I got tickets. I'm interested to see what you guys talk about.
Yeah.
They were all asking you doing it tonight. So I wouldn't wait. You can get lucky. Like right now, you at the bottle shop, you guys, as of last Thursday, had some of the Red Zin, the
Pinot
Noir.
Yeah, yeah. Still
You got some 6-year, I think, the apple brandy, not the Nocino. I don't think I saw that.
It was this. Yeah, it was the 6-year that was
apple
finished
brandy,
in apple brandy.
batch 3 or whatever.
Yeah,
So
we still have a few of the 5-year.
Okay.
It's batch 3.1. So we sold out really quickly of batch 3.
Yeah.
So powers to be decided, hey, we need to dump some more barrels to meet this demand.
That's good.
So we do have a few more of those
And
left.
you called it 3.1, not 3.
Yep. You know, I don't take care of that. That's above me. But yeah, so we dumped a few extra barrels. So we might have a few of those left over, but we definitely have some 6-year left at the bottle shop. So yeah.
No more rye though. That was
No more rye. That was very exclusive. That's very exclusive.
We still have some inside here. It's in a box.
Yeah.
So no one sees it on the bar. So
Oh yeah, because there are some of those people that come over and they're like, "Oh, I'll just help myself to everything."
Yeah.
It's
That
literally
was
it's in the like the Watershed black box, you know, and
Yeah.
it's sitting in the kitchen bar in the box next to a box of Cards Against Humanity. So
Yeah.
they don't know what it is.
there you go. Camouflage.
It's camouflage.
Yeah, that was a
Sitting.
very exclusive bottle. That was a single barrel that we did.
Mhm.
So yeah, when that sold out, it's gone. That juice will never exist again.
Is this project? I assume you guys are going to gauge the response, which is typical. But based on what you're saying with the note that you were going for here, batch number 2, I would venture to guess that you're not going to have. It's not going to taste like this. It's going to be different. Or are you going to search or seek out a similar flavor profile for the uncut, unfiltered? Or are you going to intentionally do something different the next time this happens? If there is a next time, I assume there will be, but if there is.
Yeah, it depends on how many we sell here.
Yeah.
That's a great question, though. So, like I said, Greg gives us a lot of freedom in the production office to kind of, you know, he trusts us to make the right decisions and do what we want. My personal philosophy, I think with it being a limited release, you have to have it a little bit different. I feel like if it's the same every time, you know, that takes all the fun out of it. It's a fine line. It's a fine line, but you know, the fun for me is you know, that blend was really good, but what's the next one going to taste like?
Nate, what
Can
would you
we
look
find the
for?
next one?
All right, Nate, we'll get into the ratings at the end of part 1, but are you enjoying this bottle? Is this
I am.
not okay? So you're enjoying this bottle.
To me, to tie off of that question you asked, Steve, it kind of reminds me of recently when you and I were part of a group doing barrel picks
Correct.
for the state.
Yeah.
Where before we got started, and it was Andemic, ironically, who told us this, she goes, all right, when you guys pick your favorites, don't just pick stuff that like just you like it or it's just super unique. We need to pick barrels that are going to sell. So yes, you kind of want stuff that's going to be a little bit different each batch, kind of like with what Barrelcraft does, but you don't want to venture too far off the beaten path because it's still got to be something that people are going to want to buy.
So I'll put this out to the live listeners. And Ray says, can I just say what a good guest Ryan is? Yeah, absolutely. And I'll ask you guys too, Nate, and then also Ryan, from a consumer standpoint, say this is the release right now, and to do something like this, Greg says, all right, Ryan, you got a year. We're going to do this again next year.
Yeah.
So the goal is let's do uncut, unfiltered. There's enough response. April of next year, that's how we kick off the spring. Mm-hmm. This is an annual thing now. We're going to do this. And I want 10 barrels, or now I want, you know, enough, like, let's do 12, whatever. You might have a little. As a consumer, do you want to come back next year and you're holding on to this bottle? You have like this is a month in where we're at in an hour, but you know, it's like for people that want to hold on to this bottle, they only get one, or maybe they can find 2, or you know, you just have some extras. For you guys out there, and I'll start with Nate on this question. When you go back next year, are you hoping that if you really like this one, are you hoping that it's going to taste like this?
Ooh, good question.
Or are you hoping that Ryan hit it out of the park again? It's not what it was last year, but that's a good thing, and I like this year with the potential that it doesn't taste like last year, and I don't like this one.
So
That's that fine line. I mean, that's the toss-up
It's
question.
I call it a risk reward.
When I see this yellow label and I'm like, man, I love that last year, and I crack this bottle, what am I like? What do you want?
So initially my answer to that, it reminds me, and it's funny that it worked out this way. It kind of reminds me of this batch 3.
Okay.
What I said about it when we had Wes on talk about batch 3 of the 5-year Nocino finish, because Wes actually brought batch 1 and 2.
Okay.
And 3. So we literally tasted all 3 of them.
Yeah.
And what I said about batch 3 was it took the best of batch 1 and the best of batch 2 and put it together in a bottle. With this being a first time release of this product, that's almost what I look for going forward, is you take some of the best aspects of previous batches and it just gets better over time.
Absolutely.
Like, it's still unique. It's not the same thing every single time.
Yeah. And that's what's so fun about craft, guys, is, craft distilling at Watershed, I've got about 1,600 bourbon barrels aging.
That's it? That's a lot.
No, exactly. Craft, it's a really small scale.
No, it's still a lot, though. When you walk in there, you're just like, holy shit.
But if you go to one of these big producers like Buffalo Trace, and they have a single warehouse that has 56,000 barrels, that's also where you kind of run into problems where, okay, this is as close as I can get to the previous batch, but I'm out of barrels. So then what do you do? You know what I mean? Then you have to pivot. And that's what's fun for me is, not always creating the same exact thing. Like if you go to the store and you get a bottle of Wild Turkey Rare Breed, you buy that bottle and you know exactly what you're getting every time.
Right.
Something like this, craft distilling, limited releases, that's the fun for me is, what can we create with what we have right now?
So this is why one of the reasons I was curious what you guys had to say, and you guys out there. So we've got Sean Anderson. He says, if it's labeled the same and is marketed the same, I want it to taste really similar to what I've had. If it's made the same, but you let me know it's different overall, I just want it to taste as well or better than it was. What it was. And then right after that, we have Austin Mayberry says, personally, I feel limited release products should vary by batch. It offers variety and builds anticipation for the next release.
Yeah.
That's as not polar opposites, because Sean did say, like, if you tell me it's going to taste different, I want it to be good.
Sure.
You know what I mean? That's pretty open, but
absolutely. I think the
different
resonating message with both these guys, Sean and Austin, I think the underlying thing we're talking about is quality. It's going to be a quality product, whether it's the same, whether it's a little bit different. You're getting a quality product.
I think as you get into it, we've had this conversation with other distillers just recently, actually. It was like with the different batches of stuff. That is something. So last week when we were talking, we had Adam and Tony on from High Bank and Whiskey War, and they were saying they were doing the batch number on the sides of it. You guys do it on there as well. And I like that. You guys are more obvious about it because on their bottles, it's on the side, which I didn't know was there. And that's just because I'm not that smart. You guys put it on like the very front, and this one's printed on. Most of them are going to be looking like they're handwritten on.
Yeah.
Right? But I think that's the level of, I don't want to say education, but just knowing what you're buying, because I've learned that over time with bourbons and with you guys and other distilleries, is that if it's truly a single barrel, it's not going to taste the same. If it's, batches of a project, those are the two ways. You try to either make it taste as close as you can, but you learn from it.
Yeah.
Or you just go a totally different direction. And like, this is the 20 batch number 2, or you can say, if this is an annual release, you turn it into that, like this is the 2024, uncut, unfiltered. And then all of a sudden it's like, I'm going into it, I'm like, oh, let's see what they got this year. Like, this will be fun. Like, I hope I like this one too. Definitely. I miss batch number 1. I think it is something where you see the label, you need to understand and educate yourself of what you're actually going to be buying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you can be misled.
Yeah.
This isn't what I remember.
Well, I think with Watershed, with them being the size that they are, I think they have that reputation that outside of their core products, such as the 4-year and the bottled and bond, you kind of expect every other project coming out to be a little bit different than the previous one.
If that's
Because
your understanding, yeah,
yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Because
That's
I
what I'm
have
trying to state.
I
yeah.
have 6 different Watershed single barrels
Yeah.
at home, and they all taste completely different from one another.
Correct.
And that's what I love about it.
Yeah.
So every time you guys come out with, like, obviously with the 5-year No Chino, I'm expecting to get that black walnut, that, you know, as I told Wes when he was on, kind of that vodka finish, that effervescence on the back end.
Yeah.
Like, there's, because it's finished in that No Chino barrel, you're going to get that type of flavor profile in there somewhere every single time.
Right.
But I think, and this may be one of those projects where it took a few batches before you guys honed in on something, and who knows, maybe batch 4 is going to be much more similar to batch 3. Because like I said, batch 1 and 2 were very different. And I thought batch 3 was taking the best aspects of both and putting into this. That was one of those. All right.
So you're a happy customer with it being a new batch. Like, it's a little different, but it's.
I am. Like, with this one, I would not be disappointed if batch 4 tasted exactly like batch 3. Because like I said, batch 3 was the best of 1 and 2. So if batch 4 tasted like this, I'm good with that. If it was just a regular Watershed single barrel that was available at the bottle shop, like if there's 4 different single barrels there and I buy one of each and I take them home and every single one of them tastes the same, that's when I'm going to be disappointed.
I agree with the single barrel program being different. And I think Watershed does a great job of that with the sticker of which single barrel it is, as opposed to the old school. I'll say it's recently old school, but you know, you look at, you mentioned, you know, Buffalo Trace. It's like Blanton's was, as they call it, like the original single barrel release. But to the general public, they expect Blanton's to taste like Blanton's.
Exactly.
So that's the difference.
Exactly.
That's, to me, that's the difference.
And where that difference is like I said, it's just scale. So they have hundreds of thousands of barrels that they can pull samples from and find those specific notes. I have 1,500. So that's where that scale comes into effect.
So
you know,
their goal is to make it taste as close.
That's exactly what they're trying to do. They want a very, very consistent product. More craft, you're trying to make it pleasant to drink. Yeah. You know, approachable, but still delicious.
All right, so we all have our opinions on this, and I'm sorry, guys. I see a lot of these, and they're talking to each other, which I love. You know, about the Austins talking with Sean and Ray's chiming in there, saying that you know, he's got a small group of, I think, whiskey. And some whiskeys are super divisive. You guys at Watershed, do you have? We're not going to hold you to this. Doesn't matter if we did. If this is an annual release, if like I said, Greg comes to you, Ryan, says, "All right, we're doing this next April." What are you leaning towards? What do you want to do? You want to do like something completely different and like go through the barrels and be like, you know what? I don't want that tropical fruit. You find your new note. This is my new batch number 2, uncut, unfiltered. Or are you going to let's try to do the same things last year?
So that's a great question. Great question.
You don't want to answer it, do you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So
you may not have thought that far. I don't know.
No, we definitely plan ahead. I haven't got confirmation whether or not we're doing a batch 2 yet.
You don't know how well this is going to sell yet.
Exactly. Yeah, there's so many unknowns still.
If it follows what some previous limited releases have been.
Yeah. So that's a great question. So for me personally, I'm going to try. I think a similarity between this bottle and batch 2 would not be a bad thing.
Okay. Build off of it.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, that being said, this note that's in this whiskey is so specific and unlike anything I've tasted before in a blend from our distillery. I think it might be difficult, but I'm definitely up for a challenge.
I like it. All right. I feel like you already sampled some different barrels.
I got lots of notes.
It's a hell of a spreadsheet.
Yeah, you have no idea.
No one erased that whiteboard in my office. That's important stuff.
Yeah.
Then you get a new janitor coming.
A lot of numbers on that whiteboard.
I thought they were done with it. All right. Do you want to light up this cigar, Ryan, or are you going to wait till part 2?
No, let's get into it.
So
like I said, I don't really know what I'm doing. This is not my forte. I'm more the whiskey guy. So.
They can walk you through it here. You know, Sean, Steve's been saving up. Where are these types of questions on the other shows? Fuck off, all right? Jeez.
I love the questions personally.
Well, good. And Ronnie, yeah, no, it's just a tight shirt. Thank you for noticing. All right. So the Ramon Allones, this is an iconic Cuban brand name that had been on the American market. It had been just basically dead. And so General Cigars, STG Group, acquired the rights to Ramon Allones, along with, they also have, on the American side, they have Cohiba, Partagas, Punch. They have a handful of these iconic brands. Ramon Allones was just, it was just, you didn't see it. And like I pointed out, I love that green box. You guys can't really see, you can kind of see it. Right. Yeah, right on the end there. But it's a Cuban brand. And honestly, it wasn't one of the top tier Cuban brands as far as price point. So before they fucked up the whole thing with the Hong Kong market of pricing for it's a whole nother story.
I'm here for it.
This is something that I love. I liked that brand, but that box of 10 right there, that there's no cigars in it, obviously, but that box of 10 right there was like 66. It was about the equivalent of US dollars, like $75 for a box of 10. So $7.50 per cigar. And I just really liked it. It's like a Corona size, petite Corona, smaller cigar, but it's very good. Ramon Allones, when we went down to Cuba, this was a kind of a fun story. What are we learning here? We got to teach the audience too.
No, I'm just
helping them out.
Yeah, I'm just helping.
Don't inhale.
Helping the rookie over here.
Don't inhale.
Don't inhale. Yeah, no, I did know that.
No,
I did know that
because I looked over and his puff went. It's like, no, like take.
It's my first time, guys.
Take a little bit long of a pull, and then just hold the smoke, because all the flavor you're going to get is in the smoke. Hold that in your mouth, let it roll around, and then you can blow it out.
Let me
yeah, that was much different. Yeah.
There you go.
See, we're helping. That's good. I like that. The Ramon Allones, going back to this, the Cuban Ramon Allones is just, I don't want to say just like every other Cuban, but it's not necessarily unique. It's not fuller. It's a Cuban cigar. I really enjoyed the blend that I really grabbed down there, and I've enjoyed some others. What was interesting about this Ramon Allones, when AJ Fernandez, so General Cigars got the rights to Ramon Allones, they employed AJ Fernandez. So he's a major grower, manufacturer of cigars in Nicaragua. So it's interesting what they did with this. This is the only Ramon Allones. This is not like a part of a series. They just put this name brand on it. They completely came up with new bands for it. The marketing behind it had no real ties to the Cuban Ramon Allones other than the name. It's got a secondary band on there. It says AJ Fernandez. And again, Esteli's on there. Nicaragua's on there. You've got, even on the primary band, you have some of the gold coins. You have some like lions on there. And then AJ Fernandez on the primary band. What's interesting about this is that, quick story, is that this is all Nicaraguan tobacco, but the wrapper leaf being darker like that, they actually, even though you read literature, it's like, oh, this is an ode to Cuban, the iconic Cuban brand. Like, no, it's not. All right, it's not. Don't give me that shit about it. It's a nod of the cap to it, using that really iconic brand name. But I'm of the opinion that this is not an ode to Cuban tobacco in any way, right? This is a Nicaraguan tobacco cigar. It even states on AJ's website that the wrapper leaf is a medio tiempo level, which is as higher than Ligero. So it's that those smaller leaves, they don't even grow, from my understanding, they don't even grow on all tobacco leaves. So Ryan, the way it works is basically the strength. It all goes back to the farming side of it. We've talked about it before on the podcast, but on the lower levels, you have the VSO levels of the tobacco plant down here. Mm-hmm. They reach out, they're less flavorful. They're very combustible. They get a lot more flavor notes from the soil.
Okay.
You go up to that's 1 and 2 primings. 3 and 4 or so are going to be that Seiko level, is what they call it, secondary, right? So it's like kind of the best of both worlds. A little more strength, some flavor from the soil, some flavor, and strength from the sun, because you're up there a little bit on the plant. Mm-hmm. Above that, you have the Ligero, the stronger leaves, a little bit smaller, typically just the way that the plant grows. More nutrients from the sun. less flavor from the soil. So you're going to get
thicker leaves,
thicker, stronger in nicotine, just because it has more strength from the sun, right? And more nutrients are coming from the sun versus the soil. And then right above that, you've got like these smaller medio tiempos, what they call it. And they're again, they don't grow on all the leaves or on all the plants, excuse me, but they're very strong. They can be flavorful because of the size. And then above that, you have the flower of the tobacco plant that they typically will top off, right? So they don't want to have the cross pollination of it. So they top that off. There is actually a flower at the top of a tobacco plant.
And that's one of the reasons why not every plant will grow the medio tiempo, is because typically they've primed that down and cut that off. So that way everything's going into the other layers of it. Because if you let a tobacco plant go on its own, like you can get 30 plus leaves off a tobacco plant. Most companies will actually trim those down and get anywhere from like 10 to 20. So that way all the nutrients are going into those leaves, and they're hardier, more flavorful leaves. Because if you just let it go, grow on its own, yes, you're going to get more leaves, but those leaves are going to have less flavor.
In
general.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So this has got the medio tiempos, they claim is the wrapper leaf. It is a dark wrapper leaf. It is a very hardy wrapper leaf on there. You can see, Ryan, I don't know if you can see in that light, you see the bumps.
I was going to make that comment.
Yeah.
Nate, talk about the bumps on there.
Yeah. So that's what we call a toothy wrapper. It's got, it's little bumps on the leaves. It's almost like oil pockets on the leaf. And that's where you get a ton of flavor. And you'll notice, if you look at your ash, you can see those same little bumps on your ash that you see on the leaves.
As a contrast, the second cigar is the AJ Fernandez H. Upman Nicaragua. See how much smoother and more sheen is on that.
Wow.
And
it's different.
Yeah. And when I went to, because I cut mine and then I also cut Ryan's. And when I was cutting these, the cap on both of them, like when you would hold it in the light, you could actually see the oil sparkle in the light, almost like glitter on the tobacco leaf.
All right. So like we said, all Nicaraguan blend. I'm going to give a quick story. I don't want to extend this part one too much, but Ryan, you might enjoy this. I know, Nate, you've probably heard this, but when I was down in Cuba in 2018, and not to just talk about the Cuba trip, but it was a very cool experience that one of the guys I went down with, Brad Grimsley, he was on the show years ago.
Oh yeah. Season 1.
And so he was one of the guys I went down with. He actually brought some of these. They'd been released not too far before we went down in August of 2018. We met up with Alejandro Glez, who now he's in the States, but he was actually like he ran the which one? Hotel Comodoro, I think it was. Yeah, Hotel Comodoro, Casa del Habano, and he also rolled cigars. He was like a master, I think he was level 9 technically, but he's like the youngest level 9 roller. So we had an opportunity. They had met him a few times before, and actually he had rolled some cigars for Brad, and then also Mark Jeremias, who is a friend of ours. And so Brad gave him one of these. He brought it down.
Oh.
And he goes by Alex. Alex says, he's like, oh yeah, I'll smoke it, because he was smoking cigars, but like a lot of Cubans down there, he's chain smoking cigarettes in between.
Oh yeah,
in between cigars, right? So he like lights it up, and he's like, because Brad's like, yeah, this is the new AJ Fernandez mix, this Ramon Allones, and of course he knows the Cuban brands of Ramon, and so he lights it up, and he's like, takes a puff, he's like, wow, he's like, that's strong.
Smooth.
He's like, that is not what he's like, that's not. And he even said, he basically like, if I recall, I don't know verbatim. He's like, that's not like Cuban at all. I was like, and we're all like, I know. He's like, but it's good.
Yeah.
He's like, it's good.
Yeah.
So he smoked it and he really enjoyed it. But it was just interesting to get that take from someone into the cigar culture of Cuba. And he's smoking a Ramon Allones by AJ Fernandez. And he's just like, he liked it, but he's like, to my point, when they say, oh, this is an ode to the blend of Ramon, it's like, go fuck yourself. No, it's not. Like, I know you're selling cigars, but no, it's not.
No, because I've smoked one of those as well.
Yeah.
No, they're so totally different. Yeah, because, I mean, and a lot of that, I think, there's a lot of things that go into it. I think one of the big factors why those two are so different is the soil composition. Nicaragua is known for that volcanic soil that has super rich, hearty flavors, spice to it. Cuban tobacco, because that soil's never rested, and they do have a tendency to not age and ferment their tobacco as long.
Yeah.
But a lot of those tend to come across, on the lighter or medium bodied side. They just don't have, a lot of them don't have this depth and richness.
It's different. You're absolutely right. It's a different tobacco, 100%. But I mean, you look at some of the branding on this, and you, Ryan, not being as into cigars, they go into, much like you guys do, it's a lot of effort into the bands on the cigar.
I mean, it's as small as it is, about an inch in length. There's a lot of detail in there.
A lot of detail. It's embossed. You guys do a little, you guys do some embossing on that. It's amazing what the difference of a good label that's not overly flashy, but it's embossed well, that there's depth to the label.
Yeah.
And you guys do that on here, which you don't really notice all the time on the shelf, but there's a reason it'll pop.
Yeah.
Is that is very calculated. The difference being is like your neck label on the bottle, not embossed.
Yeah.
Flatter.
Yeah. Just kind of plain Jane.
But this,
yeah.
really
You tilt to the side. It's got a little shine to it. Yeah.
Back label, not embossed, still looks good, but that front label, it's just that little touch.
Yeah, just catches your eye.
And the cigar does the same thing. Obviously, on this one, they've got some like the gold leaf. It really pops. Obviously, a little flashy on this one, but yeah. Hey, you said this is your favorite, one of your favorites from AJ.
This is one of my favorite cigars
in general.
Oh
wow.
Yeah. I've got a couple of them in my humidor. I actually brought one of them with me tonight, just in case I felt like having another one. No, I don't necessarily go crazy over every AJ Fernandez cigar, but this is one of those that I absolutely do love. This is more, I don't want to say special occasion. This is more for me like a nightcap cigar.
It's a lot. It's a fuller cigar.
Yeah. Full cigar.
Sorry about that. I know you don't smoke many.
No.
But I like, to Nate's point earlier in the podcast, I thought it might go well with this bottle.
Because we're drinking something that's uncut, unfiltered. It's barrel strength. And so
that's one of the things I've noticed is, not being a cigar smoker, it brings out the sweetness in this. Like, holy shit.
It changes it.
Yeah, completely.
That whole tropical fruit thing you got it's back.
It elevates it to an 11. Yeah.
But these go to 11. But no, I've always been a fan of this cigar, and it was actually Grimsley that introduced me to this cigar.
Same Brad that I was talking about.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I know the Tinderbox doesn't always carry them, but when they do, I make sure to snag a couple.
Well, it's more common now, and I think that AJ does actually distribute this, even though General Cigars bought the branding, but this is under AJ's portfolio, is my understanding. And I can't remember if I mentioned this more recently. I think I did on the podcast that AJ, for those that like his actual core products, not like the H. Upman by AJ that we have for round 2 here.
Is that the technique you rolled in?
Is
always learning.
He's going to be focusing more on his portfolio. Still making products for everyone else, but I think
done so many. I think
you're going to see a shift here. Is that there's going to be a little bit more focus on getting his cigars, if you will, that are coming out of his portfolio and his salespeople, his sales staff, and you're going to see more of that. And so I'm excited to see that, because to your point, Nate, I think that was something that was holding back some of the brands like Ramon Allones, some of the San Lotano stuff, some of the New World stuff. I mean, these are some of the AJ brands that are really solid, that they don't have as much weight in a humidor because AJ does so much other stuff for other people, other companies.
Well, and part of that's because, within the last 15 years, AJ Fernandez had made some absolute dynamite cigars. So every company out there, big or small, wanted to work with them, wanted to collaborate and make a cigar that had their name and AJ's name on it, because AJ's knowledge of tobacco is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
I watched him get handed a cigar and was asked by the creator of that, or the owner of that brand, like, hey, tell me what you think. AJ didn't even smoke it. He literally pulled out a knife, cut the cigar open, and would look at the tobacco, even take little bits of it, light it, and smell it. And he picked out every single tobacco leaf in that cigar. that's the knowledge that he has. So everyone wanted to work with him. And I think because of that, he stretched himself out thin because he was working on projects with everybody else. So you would always see these really popular cigars. This cigar by AJ. This cigar, AJ Fernandez, on the secondary name, like the H. Upman that we have.
It got to the point where the equivalent, I guess, into the not to the point, but a similar idea is like an MGP on the bourbon side, where it's like they make their own stuff, they sell their own stuff, but they have the ability that you have these other people that are like, we'll make stuff for us, we'll pay you, and then our sales force and sales efforts and marketing efforts will sell it.
Yeah,
you make it for us, you get not the same amount as, you know, from a business standpoint that if you did it all yourself, but we're like H. Upman, like that's Altadis, that's General Cigars, like these are the two biggest conglomerates in the American tobacco industry. So it's like you come to, like, I got all this tobacco, we have the ability to make a lot of cigars, manufacture a lot of cigars, and these big boys are coming at you like, here's a check. You just make the cigars, we'll take care of it.
Yeah,
we'll get them out to people, and they're like, all right. But I mean, that goes so far, obviously, especially with the passion. So there's a balancing act there. You know, if you guys ever like started Watershed, you know, you went away from you have the craft side of it, but then you're like, man, we got a lot of barrels, we got a lot of stuff, and we can't get it out right now.
Yeah.
And then now a smaller distillery comes to you and be like, hey, can we buy some of that? And you're like, okay.
Yeah. So,
you know what I mean? Now there's the business side of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we call that falls into the category of contract distilling.
Okay.
So you can have companies like smaller people like, hey, we don't have the capacity to, you know, meet the needs of our customers. Can you make us some stuff that we can, you know, blend with some of our stuff, but put it out as our product? So yeah, sounds like the same.
Yeah, it's very similar.
Yeah.
Very similar. Very similar. All right. So unless you want to talk about the cigar anymore, do you want to get to the
We're good.
All right. I don't know what's going on right now in the comments. I don't know if I want to know. I just glanced out the last one. I'm not going to highlight that. All right. So what we do at the end of part one here is we do the ratings. So we rate 10's the best. We do 3 different ratings. 1 on the whiskey, which is going to be the Uncut Unfiltered Watershed batch number 1. Out of 10 being the best for the cigar, which is the Ramon Allones by AJ Fernandez. And then out of 10, and these are all your own personal things. It's not like adding up like the different levels. This is your gut, is the pairing of how the cigar goes with the whiskey, how the whiskey goes with the cigar, and just overall package.
Okay.
So if you want to go first, you can go first, or if you need a little bit of a
pressure's on.
There's no pressure here.
Well,
it's pretty easy.
With the whiskey, I feel like there's a little bit of a bice there.
That's fine.
Trust me, we get a lot of whiskey and cigar guys on here.
But in all honesty, you know, it's like art. You know, it's never finished, right?
Yeah.
And it's subjective.
I give it absolutely. Yeah, it's, you know, what I like, maybe Steve doesn't like, or, you know, vice versa. But, you know, I would give it a solid 9. You know, I'm really proud of this blend. I think it came together really well. It's unique. It's nothing like we've released from Watershed before. So I think it hit most of the boxes. It checked off most of the boxes.
That's neat. How about the cigar, Jan? You know, I know you have limited experience.
Very limited experience.
And I will say, you are smoking, to your credit, whether you need it or not. This is a fuller bodied cigar. This is not something that a lot of times people are like, yeah, I don't really smoke cigars. I'm sorry, I didn't really think that way tonight. I'm like, well, let's do something mild. I'm like, no, I'm thinking of the bottle.
Exactly.
And so what do you think of the cigar?
Absolutely. You know, just having no background and, you know, being very much a novice, you know, it's enjoyable. You know, it's not anything that's too harsh. You know, I don't find myself, you know, I'm not coughing or anything after each puff.
Right.
You know, it's enjoyable. Yeah. I also give it a solid 9.
And how about the pairing? Because you made a comment.
Yeah, I think I gave that one away already, didn't I?
That's fine, but it's so, and you can do this when we go to Nate also, but just out of what you've done so far, we've really kind of gotten down to this recently, where it's you set the cigar down for a little bit, take a sip of the whiskey, then go to the cigar, and then smoke the cigar for a couple puffs or, you know, a minute or whatever, and then go back to the whiskey just to see how it goes back and forth. But just overall, what do you think of the pairing? Yeah,
I think it goes really, really well. You know, it highlights those notes that I talked about in this blend really, really well. You know, it brings out those sweet fruity notes, that tropical aspect of it. Yeah, I'd give that a 9.5. Not perfect, but it's pretty damn close.
It's interesting, right?
Yeah.
No, I'm glad you got to do that though.
Yeah, that was fun.
Nate, how about you?
So whiskey, I'm a 9 on this.
Mm-hmm.
I do enjoy this bottle. Honestly, going into it, I was actually expecting something with a little bit more of like a caramel sweetness or the cherry type of sweetness that sometimes we get.
You were expecting or hoping
That's
for?
what I was expecting.
Okay.
This does have a different flavor profile than that. I'm not disappointed. And then again, this is the first Watershed product I think that I've had that had the Char 5 on it. So, that right there says it's going to be something a little bit different than what I'm used to. But like I said, I've got a lot of, Watershed products at home and they're all different. That's what I love about the stuff that you guys put out there. I've even had, like I was telling you guys before we went live, I've got a Watershed 142 single barrel.
Yeah. OHLQ pick, right?
No.
Wow.
No, that was a barrel pick for someone.
Okay.
I got it at the booty hunt event.
Oh,
and
okay.
there were 4 barrels.
That's right.
There were 4 bottles of it. And I'd bought a bottle for Steve and then 2 bottles for myself.
Mine was the Red Zen, right?
Yours was the Zinfandel. I bought that for you. And then I bought a couple other single barrels. I had checked out, and then all of a sudden Wes comes out and he's carrying a box to a table and he starts pulling out bottles. I'm like, oh,
Wes has that effect.
what do we have here?
Yeah.
He goes, dude, I've only got 4 bottles of this. And he puts the bottle in my hand. He goes, take a look at the label. I'm like, 71%. Holy shit. I'm like, what the hell? But
of course you bought it.
Of course. And I've shared that with a lot of people, including Steve. And
actually, now that we're talking about that, I do remember what customer that was for.
Mm-hmm.
And there's actually a really funny story behind that.
I had someone describe that as Willet pot still on steroids because it was just cinnamon candy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that you guys, every project you guys do is a little bit different. This having that lighter, brighter fruit note was a little bit different than I was expecting, but it's still, a very enjoyable bottle. What also surprises me about this is it's $69.99 because I've seen there's been a lot of your guys' stuff that you guys put out that's 90, 100, 150.
Yeah.
So when I heard about this, that's what I was expecting.
Yeah.
The fact that this is only $10 more than the bottled in bond.
Yeah, that's something we got really excited for. Coming
up
with
20.
Price,
it is 20.
Price point.
It's the same as your single barrels.
$10 more than a single barrel.
Yeah,
$10
single
more
barrels
than
are
$59. You're right. Yeah,
$10 more than single barrel.
More.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what makes it fun for us. Creating a unique, affordable product that everyone can enjoy.
Yeah. No, I think the price game we talk about a lot on the show. It's hard to manage right now of what's out there and what people are putting out there and these special products and the prices that they are demanding. And I love that you guys are doing.
Yeah.
It seems to be your best to control that and not just get out of hand.
Yeah.
As soon as every project comes out, it's like, oh, it's $100. You're like, well, come on, man! I just bought the last. I got your last project, and
exactly.
it was $100.
Exactly.
Anymore?
But like when I talked about the that Three Boys Farm, which is also like literally you buy the empty bottle and you thief it straight out of the barrel.
There. That's a fun experience.
Yeah, those are $150 a bottle.
Yeah.
So, cigar 9.5.
You love this cigar.
I love this cigar. Eric, shut the fuck up. No, I absolutely love this smoke. Like I said, this is one of my favorite cigars. And I tend to be a fuller body cigar smoker. I love this one even more so with a pour.
So what do you think of the pairing?
Pairing, I'm a little bit different than Ryan. 8.5 on the pairing.
Okay.
Something I think this cigar would go better with something that had a little bit more of those caramel notes or those dark cherry notes. I think the spice and strength of the cigar would be offset a little bit more by that. There's so much spice with this particular product that the cigar they don't really necessarily amplify, but they don't help each other as much as maybe a different bottle or different cigar might.
Sure.
Gotcha. For me, the Uncut Unfiltered by Watershed, I first off, and it's not just because Ryan's here, not just because you guys are supporters of the show, and we appreciate that, is, I mean, I would definitely encourage, again, especially the price point, if you're in the area, you can pick up the bottle. I encourage you to go to BourbonFest because I can't and I'm jealous, but it looks like it's gonna be a great thing. You got live music, you can create your own flights, you can take a distillery tour. Obviously, you can try some different cocktails and food. The kitchen's lights out. I mean, it's fantastic food that comes out of there.
Fantastic.
You get what you pay for there for sure. And so with this bottle, I mean, it's definitely something I would encourage people to get while you can. I think I know I am going to actually go on and buy another bottle, even though I can't get to the distillery. Yeah. So I'm with you guys. It's a 9. This is something that, again, for a local, and I hate to call it a local distillery, just for anything, for a special project from any distillery, I think this is a lot of fun. This didn't disappoint. To Nate's point, I didn't know what to expect. He was expecting something different, but there is a little bit of the fact that this does have a unique flavor profile, like you're talking about, with like, it's not fruity, but it has like, it's a fruit heavy that before we lit up the cigar, definitely it was like that kind of a salsa, like a mango, or like you said, pineapple. It's like more of the tropical fruit salsa, so it's got a lot of depth to it. It's got some heat to it, but it does have those fruit notes. And so, yeah, I give it a 9. I think this is definitely something, especially for that price tag with what we're dealing with in the whiskey market. A limited edition type that has a higher, it's cask strength, barrel strength, if you will, and it definitely does deliver. So I do like that. The cigar, I do like this cigar. I'm an 8.5 on the cigar. I think this is a really good cigar. It's tough to pair with stuff, which is why I'm happy that this did actually. I'm of the opinion that went really well with it. I know you gave it a good rating, Nate. This cigar is not necessarily a morning cigar. This is not necessarily something that if you did truly have some Mexican food and had some hot salsa, or you had spicy something, I wouldn't recommend smoking this cigar because it's going to just blast your palate the entire time and it's not going to be enjoyable. So yeah, this is something that I do really enjoy, this blend. I love the fact that even though the tobacco doesn't necessarily bring back that Cuban tobacco essence, it does, again, a nod of the cap to the brand Ramon Allones. The pairing, I think the pairing's interesting. I'm going to do an 8.5 on the pairing. I think it is cool to see, and Ryan, you brought it up, is that I didn't even think about it until you really said it, and I went on cigar to the whiskey again, and my gosh, it is a lot sweeter. It's got more of the fruit forward. It definitely changed it. So if you guys grab a bottle of this, you're going to get that experience we were talking about, I think, in the beginning of the show. If you smoke something like a Ramon Allones or a fuller bodied cigar, or depending on what you eat, it might actually take away some of that heat, some of that, the other aspects of it, but in a good way. It's good both sides of the coin, in my opinion. It's good on its own, and it's good with this. The cigar was almost like, for me, adding a couple drops of water to the whiskey.
Absolutely. Yeah,
we didn't do that, but I mean, that's what it reminds me of.
Yeah, I would almost say, if you're not one of those quote unquote proof monsters, it kind of tames it down a little bit. It makes it a little more approachable.
I was at a Watershed event last year because Steve couldn't go to it, and it was for a social media, doing the 6 single barrels that Watershed released last year, and we had to go around the room and raise our hand as to which bottle was our favorite, and I raised mine on the one that just so happened to be the highest proof. And
so you're one of those proof monsters.
No, I'm not. But
at times.
But there was someone there that called me a proof whore.
Interesting.
That was it?
Yep.
Okay. I didn't know where the story was. It had another little...
That was it.
All right. Well, guys, happy Whiskey Wednesday. We're going to round out part 1 here. If you guys are listening for part 2, we are about to get into that. We'll do a quick intermission, but I do want to thank, obviously, Ryan, Watershed. Again, BourbonFest is April 22nd. It's a Saturday, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., and you can get your tickets online now. $30. That gets you basically 3 $10 tickets, which is for cocktails or some of the food. They've got the ribs that are going to be there. So you got those. You can buy extra $10 tickets online as well. And you can reserve this bottle for $69.99. And that can be picked up that day, April 22nd. If you can't make the event and you still want the bottle, definitely reserve it. And then you can pick it up between the event on April 22nd up until the May 4th. The one nice thing, if you're kind of on the fence, which I understand some people can be, they're going to have samples of this that day at the BourbonFest.
Yeah.
So if
Absolutely.
you go to it and you didn't reserve a bottle, you bought the $30 ticket, you want to enjoy the evening, everything, the live music with Angela Purley, and then who else was it? There's someone else there.
You're the Buffalo.
You're the Buffalo. You're going to enjoy that. And if you have a sample of this, I assume you can use a $10 ticket probably for a sample. So one of your drink tickets, if you will, for a sample of this.
So we'll have different sampling stations. It's definitely a try before you buy. If you're on the fence, like Steve was saying, if you're not sure, there will be plenty of bottles that you can try it before you decide you want to go all in. I do also want to add that this is a ticketed event.
Mm-hmm.
So
you can't just show up.
Yes, you can't just show up. So if you're on the fence about coming to an event, order your ticket. There will be a point if we get too many people. Unfortunately, we will have to turn people away. So make sure you get your ticket now, get it early so you can get in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just in general, guys, if you're in the area, check out the restaurant, the bottle shop, and then schedule a tour. It's a great tour, great location. And again, I mean, it's just a lot of fun because you can do the tour, sample some stuff, see if you want to buy a bottle of a certain product.
Lots of
and you guys do more than just the bourbon too. So I mean, you got some other great spirits there. And again, you can always end it with either lunch or dinner, or whatever you guys want to do while they're open.
Yeah, not just bourbon. We got plenty of vodka-based drinks. Apple brandy, whatever.
3 different gins.
Yeah,
3 different gins. Yeah, whatever.
Aren't you guys getting ready to release the second run of the strawberry gin?
Yeah, so that's an ongoing project. That'll come back around this summer. So yeah, look for that.
Great summer drink.
Yeah, lots of tours going on. Everyone from production is involved in the tours. So when you take it, you're getting it from the people who are in there every day, blood, sweat, and tears making these products.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So guys, thanks to Tinderbox at Easton in Columbus, Ohio. Also Altadis USA. We've got the H. Upman, Nicaragua by AJ coming up next. And then also Be a Cigar Company available, gold and silver. And also, if you guys want to contribute to the show, we appreciate that. Patreon.com/BourbonandBS podcast or Venmo at Bourbon and BS. And then also for swag, you got buyjack.com/BourbonandBS. So guys, thank you very much. Happy Whiskey Wednesday. Take a quick intermission. Cheers. Ryan, thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
Those are good. So the audio is clear. If you need to use the restroom.
That was back in November.
Oh, nice. Yeah. That's awesome.
And then I've added the black walnut old fashioned.
Yeah.
I need to pick that up. I saw that at the Kroger.
Yeah. So
we have it at Carfani's.
We
had 2 bottles of it yesterday when I left.
Yeah, we've got distribution on that. So yeah, it's out there.
Originally, it was just at the bottle shop.
Yes, originally it was supposed to be just a limited release distillery exclusive.
I think last week Brad came in and did a tasting at Carfani's, and we sold a shit ton of that old black walnut old fashioned.
Yeah, Brad's awesome.
Yeah,
he does a great job.
One of the funniest ones was we were supposed to have someone come in and do a tasting at Carfani's, and they called earlier in the day, and apparently that rep was sick, and they didn't have anyone in the area that could fill in and do the tasting. It's like, all right, that's all right. We didn't have a sign up or anything that we were going to be doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And a few hours later, someone from Watershed, Brad's brother, I think, shows up and he's like, yep, where do you want me to set up? And we're like, oh, yep, go ahead and set up. Like, this works out great because, he was supposed to come the next Thursday.
Okay.
And he read the calendar wrong and showed up a week before, but it worked out great. And then the next week, Brad shows up and he's like, yeah, I just want to make sure everything's all right for, he showed up on a Tuesday. He's like, yeah, I want to make sure everything's good to go on Thursday for a tasting. He's like, yeah, we literally just did one last week because your brother can't read a fucking calendar.
Yeah. Brad might be one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life.
Oh, super nice guy. super nice
guy. Every time I see him, we don't interact often. He's out with different accounts, but every time he's in the distillery, he always, hey, Ryan, how's it going? How's life treating you? Just super nice guy.
Yeah.
I have a question for you, Ryan.
Eric has a question.
Fire away.
Do you want this question on the?
So anyway, my question.
They can't hear you. Okay.
No, I want to know about your alcohol tolerance.
It's pretty high.
Don't be modest.
Yeah, no. So
Eric asked
When
about
I'm-
his alcohol tolerance.
no, that's a good question. So when I'm tasting through 45 barrels at a time, obviously you can't drink that much. I mean, I'd be
Sip and spit.
heavily. Yes, sip and spit is my best friend. Yes, absolutely. There's no way to get through that many barrels if you don't.
Sure.
Especially like, once that buzz starts hitting you, everything tastes the same anyway. Everyone always says that.
Yeah.
So to get those notes, you have to sip. and spit.
Steve knows what that's
It's
like.
not really an option.
Okay, but let's talk about this outside of the tasting spectrum. Given the nature of the job, given the nature of your interests,
Mhm.
given what you do outside of working hours.
Microphone
Yeah.
right there.
He doesn't want to talk on the mic.
Oh, cool. It's fun for our listeners.
What is your alcohol tolerance these days?
So I'm definitely a whiskey man through and through. Working in the biz, it's not one of those things that I know. I kind of compare it to any other profession in the industry. So like somebody who like Matt House is a professional chef. I'm sure he doesn't come home and wants to, okay, I'm going to cook this 3-course meal for dinner.
Right.
So it's not every day where I come home and like, yeah, I want to pour a whiskey. And I enjoy, craft beer. I really enjoy craft beer. So I'll get, have some of that on hand at home, but whiskey generally is my go-to. I have a pretty extensive collection.
Well, and because of my new job, I've been drinking a lot more wine recently.
See,
than
that's
whiskey.
whole nother monster that, I've been trying to get into, but
Work
there's
at a
just-
wine shop and
holy
see how
crap,
that
there's
goes.
so many brands.
Oh,
like,
God.
how do you make a
No.
decision?
It's not just there's so many brands. There are so many varietals.
That too, yeah.
and
that-
then regions.
I call it
and-
the spider web effect, like
Oh, yeah.
the brands with the expressions. Like, how do you decide?
Yeah.
I think wine is more similar to the tobacco.
Yes, and
cigar
I've
world
explained
than-
that to people.
than whiskey is.
Okay.
With wine, there's more.
You guys have the mash bill, right? You
Well,
know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah, with wines, there's more varietal in terms of grapes. But the thing that a lot of people who are wine drinkers that don't realize about cigars is with tobacco, like Steve alluded to earlier in part one, you have the different leaves on the plant, and those are going to have different flavor profiles
Yeah.
within them. So even if you have a plant that is a Corojo 99, the 3 different layers of leaves on those are going to taste different.
And
so
where you grow
blending
it
all those
and
together,
all that.
yeah.
Okay.
And
How
then
you
you throw
ferment
it,
it.
and then you throw a different wrapper on it. It tastes completely different. You throw a binder, a double binder, like everything changes.
Yeah. Our distillery supervisor, Chris Smith, and then our bottling manager, Casey Snyder, they love cigars. Like that's what
Yeah.
they come in and that's what they talk about like in their off time. Like,
Love it.
yeah, like what'd you pick up? And
I get them on here too
I,
with you.
I hear them talk about cigars and it's like a whole nother language.
You should have like a whole like round table at Watershed.
Absolutely. Yeah, that'd be
You
awesome.
guys need to get a smoking area.
I'll pitch that to Rochelle.
Good luck.
See what they think about
Good
that
luck.
Oh, they're gonna
as the door slams.
they're gonna nix that so hard.
No one's going on the Bourbon BS podcast ever again.
Yeah.
Fuck those guys. All right. Do you need to hit the head or you
I'm
you
good.
solid?
I'm
All right.
solid.
If it changes, let me know. Or just get up and go.
He's barking pretty hard. If I go inside and open up the door, it's not going to catch.
No, just don't let them out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I didn't know. I can hear it pretty good right now.
I know. Do you need to go inside to take a call?
I
Or
was going to get water.
oh, yeah. There's actually water right behind you in the fridge. Bottled water. I know he's barking. It's Tony. He wants to be a part of the party.
Oh, and
he's social, isn't he?
He very, very much so.
since this is only for the live audience right now, I was told to make sure we keep these bottles in this order.
Oh,
Why is that?
Hierarchy.
Hierarchy. All right.
That's what I was told.
bold
Amy.
statement.
I can't tell you who
Amy.
said it. I can't tell you who said
You
it.
don't need to
That's just what I was told.
do the seashell game here in a
Yeah,
second.
now I want to know who
It was Amy. It was obviously Amy. No, it wasn't. All right.
I didn't say who.
Okay. It doesn't matter.
No names. No names.
Wow. All right.
Anonymity is the key.
So Ann.
I didn't say.
Amy says definitely not me.
Yeah, you're like, I don't care. speaking of which, let's you want to crack this single barrel?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, shit. All right.
Yeah, shit.
Yeah,
I guess
so-
I just poured more than.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
You want me to pour it back in?
No, drink it.
Yeah, so this is one of our 2 single barrels that we have in the bottle shop right now.
Is this another competition? Like, who picked this one?
So these all came from me.
All right, hang on a second. Let's start part 2, and then you can tell people
Okay,
we're going to
perfect.
get into it. But then that way people listen on the audio, they can actually hear that part too.
Yeah.
Quick moment of silence here so I can find this on the audio. Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 266, part 2. This is Beyond the BS. And so this is where we go a little off the typical bourbon or cigar podcast and we start talking about life. We're going to try to lighten it up there a little bit. We've had a lot of similar topics in the previous weeks about, with the different businesses and trying to grow and getting what you getting what you give out of it was a recent one. And it's just something that, I wanted to kind of do what we've done before in previous years and talk about how the change of the seasons really affect everyone, because here in the Midwest, we finally hit real spring, in my opinion. We're going to have a couple of days that are a little like 50s and stuff like that, but that's fine. It's fine. It's Midwest. But we're in the 70s, 80s, right now. And spring will be the days that the sun didn't set until after 8 o'clock. It's beautiful. And I just personally, I noticed there's a lot of people that I run into that today, everyone's in a fucking great mood. Everyone's in a good mood.
Yeah.
It's amazing how the sun has
It's
that
amazing.
effect.
And yet 3 days of consistent sunshine, it doesn't have the same effect.
Yeah.
It wears the fuck off.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about that tonight. I want to thank our sponsors, Tinderbox at Easton, Columbus, Ohio. You can find the featured cigar that we were smoking on part 1, the Ramon Allones by AJ Fernandez. Listen to part 1. Click back if you guys have just started listening on part 2 on the audio. Click back to part 1, or if you guys just tuned in late in the feed here, hopefully you guys can listen to the first part on the video as well. Also, Altadis USA, we do have an on-deck cigar, if we get to it, the AJ Fernandez, the H. Upman Nicaragua. And that's a great cigar. We've had that as a part 2 cigar several times just because it is a great medium-bodied cigar. Check that out. Also available at Tinderbox at Easton and everywhere. And the BS Cigar Company, the gold and silver are available. The gold is made by Plasencia. The silver is made by Espinosa. And if you guys want to contribute to the show, we appreciate all of that through patreon.com/bourbonbs podcast. If you're enjoying it and want to join in, $5, $10, or $25 tiers, or you can also do a one-time contribution through Venmo at Bourbon and BS is the tag for that. And then also buyjack.com for any of the swag. If you like to pour one more, light up another. We'll figure this out together. T-shirts in different colors. You have the BS Cigar Company T-shirts, hoodies, and also you've got what Nate's got on. If you're watching the feed, is the softball shirt, as they're
Makes
called.
me want one.
Yeah, not so bad. You can go on to buyjack.com/bourbonbs to get those shirts, and they ship it directly to you, print to order. So appreciate that. If you guys have any comments or questions, put it on the feed on YouTube or Facebook is where we get a lot of it. And then also, guys, I remind you, the way we keep growing this, again, the Bourbon and BS podcast Facebook page has 1,900 some followers. The Instagram has a lot. I don't know the number on that one as well, but make sure you guys like it, review, all that stuff. You see a lot of good content, just like what we're going to have for the Watershed BourbonFest and this uncut, unfiltered bottle that we're still enjoying here. So you can check that out. And just a reminder for you guys, if you're just listening now on part 2 on the audio, this is the first thing you click to. We'll have it up next week. It'll be before the BourbonFest, but hopefully tickets will still be available. $30 tickets, April 22nd. It's 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. at the distillery, restaurant, all of the bottle shop. I don't know, where do they report into?
Yeah, so it'll be well marked. We'll have the street blocked off in certain areas. I also want to mention there will be limited parking, so we are encouraging rideshare.
Uber,
Very limited parking there at the distillery. So if you know a bunch of friends that are going, try to carpool together, guys.
Yeah, best thing is to, if you are fairly local, is to Uber, take a Lyft, whatever, to get there and get back.
Park at Kroger down the road.
Yeah, if you want to take a little
We
hike.
don't encourage that, but wherever you can find some place to park.
But yeah, that's going to be April 22nd. And that's where you can also reserve online, watersheddistillery.com. Tickets to that, as well as the Uncut Unfiltered, which we reviewed in the first part of it, first part of this episode. So listen to that as well if you haven't listened to that. And that's $69.99, and it is very limited. So definitely, if you're in the area, you want to go to that, I would encourage you to go eat some good food, drink some good drinks, secure this bottle. The bottle shop will be open. A lot of other selections there, including the old fashioned, the black walnut old fashioned. You've got the gin, different gins. You've got vodka. Got a lot of different options in that bottle shop. And also swag. You guys have your own swag.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of t-shirts, hats. You got the hat on. I know I got a hat somewhere in here.
Yeah.
You got a lot of swag, which is really cool. I love that stuff. We are going to be cracking a single barrel, right? What is this?
Yeah. So this is a single barrel that we currently have at the bottle shop. So we saw such a high demand for our single barrels that we are now offering consistent single barrels in our bottle shop throughout the year.
Nice.
So if you show up to the distillery, we should have a single barrel for you. We're going to harvest some each quarter. So it's no longer going to be like a little leftover from this pick, a little leftover from that pick. There will be consistent barrel proof store picks for you.
Yeah. Watershed single barrels.
Yeah. So this one is the
you can only get at the bottle shop. Correct. Yeah. It's not going to be distributed around
no distribution.
Ohio or anywhere else.
Only. Yeah. So this one that I brought with me is the Watershed Distillery barrel. So these are all barrels that I picked. We currently have 2. So we have this one and then the Cask Manager's pick. Obviously that's pretty self-explanatory, I think. Yeah, that came from me. But yeah, it's all great stuff. Our barrel proof portfolios are, in my opinion, fantastic, as biased as that is.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it's all great stuff.
All right.
And each one's going to be a little different.
Why'd you pick this name?
So you'll have to take that up with Miss Amy Jones.
Okay.
She was in charge of the naming. So yeah, if you don't like the name, you can come to me, but I'll redirect you.
The last single barrels that I bought from you guys at the bottle shop were you guys were having an in-house competition between the front of the house and back of the house. So one was That's What She Shed.
Yep.
That was all the women.
No,
that was the front house. That was the restaurant.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That was the restaurant.
So that was all done by the restaurant. Front of house. So that's bartenders, wait staff, hostess. They all decided on that barrel. And then the back of the house also did pick. So that's the line cooks, Maddie Howe's.
What was that one called again? I know I have it.
Kitchen Chuggies.
Kitchen Chuggies. Okay. That's it. Yep.
Yeah.
I still have
both and that's actually coming back around. So we're gonna do a part 2 for that. So that saga continues.
My favorite was the She Shed. The front line. That was my favorite between those two.
Yeah.
And they were only off by 0.4 proof.
Yeah. Very close.
But very different though.
It's different. It's amazing how some barrels you can get really close in proof, but they're still drastically different.
Oh yeah. And Amy says from Watershed Distillery Festillery. No, I got it. I got the play on words. I thought it was maybe because of BourbonFest. She says because we have so many festivals. I was going to lead right in to be like, this is going to be available at the bottle shop.
Yeah, absolutely.
BourbonFest.
Yeah, you come to BourbonFest. You can pick up one of these bottles.
At BourbonFest.
Yeah, absolutely. This one and then the Cask Manager's pick.
What's the name on that one?
Spring Cask Manager's pick. Creative.
Wow.
It's not
reaching on that name.
Not quite as playful.
Yeah, they threw me a bone on that one. So thanks, Amy.
All right. So this is good, though. I just took a sip of it.
Yeah.
Definitely check it out. All right, Nate. And you guys out there and Ryan as well. But I mean, spring. So the topic, we do something different here. It's spring, baby. I like I said, starting this off is that it's just really, it's so different. And we didn't, like in the Midwest here where we were at, we didn't really have a bad winter. I think the biggest storms that we had that were really tough were like right before Christmas. It was like 23rd.
Yep.
Where we had some major snow and people getting stuck. We had some major like
-9 degrees actual temperature.
And that was basically it. So we had a pretty mild winter here.
I think February we had no recorded snowfall.
With some record highs.
How rare is that?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So why do you guys think that? Why? What's
March was colder than February.
Sure, it was. Yeah, especially on Smoking 10 event. But what do you guys think? I mean, with this the spring coming around, how does this affect you guys? What do you guys think? What's the big deal about why does it change people that, like, when they walk into the tinderbox where I was today, and everyone's in a good mood? And I even make the comment to some people, it's like, "Well, how's the day going?" I'm like, "Well, everyone's in great mood, beautiful outside." Yeah, it is, absolutely. Everyone's just like the birds are chirping, it's like that. It's like one of those like scenes in a movie where I feel like there's like cartoon birds, like on their shoulder as they walk in. Like everyone's just like super happy and all this stuff. And it's why?
Yeah.
What I mean,
well, I think there are
is there a contrast here?
I think there are different aspects to spring that people like. Like last week, you could also classify as a typical Ohio spring day. It was in the 50s and it rained all fucking day.
Sure.
That's normal for us too. But this week, we're upper 60s, 70s all week and clear skies. It's when you get those first few days of that coming out of winter that I think people are really excited. I know there have been some years where we've had like a week or two of spring and then we just jump straight into summer.
Are you guys winter people?
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, but that's the thing. Like, this is one of those where people are like, all right, it's in the 70s. Like, this is a great in between, because the people that bitch when it's 0 degrees or 10 degrees outside also bitch when it's 90 degrees outside.
I agree.
This is one of those happy mediums, and we enjoy it while we can.
Okay.
Because we know, all right, like next week, it's going to be back in the 50s again, all week long, thereabouts. Yeah. And then pretty soon we're going to be in the 80s and 90s, and people, but I think it's those first few days, especially if you string them together, because there was one weekend recently where we had great weather on Sunday and the shop was dead because it was the first really good weather day we'd had in a while. Mm-hmm. So people were probably at home taking care of outdoor chores.
Sure.
And they weren't coming into the store. They were going out doing things outside, not going into a cigar shop hanging out. But I think once you start stringing some of those together, like people have their days where they can do the stuff at home, do the stuff outside, and then they'll want to go outside. People will go out golfing again soon. It's when you start making that turn to the warmer weather, people start going outside more. They're going on walks,
barbecues,
flowers,
barbecues.
Mm-hmm. People are out, just being out in the sun, getting some natural vitamin D, mm-hmm. Just kind of elevates people a little bit.
Yeah. They sell that in a bottle too, by the way. Ryan, why, when I asked if you're a winter person, why? You're like, no, flat out.
For me and my fiance, we're very much outdoorsy people.
Okay.
We love to have a nice bonfire, have a beer by the bonfire, make some s'mores, barbecue, I'm huge into grilling. Mm-hmm. We grill year round at my house.
I was going to say, do you not grill then,
Oh no, we grill year round, but
okay.
It's definitely, and I think you guys will agree, it's much less enjoyable in 20-degree weather than it is in 80-degree weather.
Yeah, I grill all year round. I agree.
Yeah.
When it's raining, it sucks. When it's snowy, it's not as fun.
It's just something about getting outside, the fresh air, like Steve, like you said, listening to the birds chirp, it's just that fresh air aspect, it just puts you in a good mood. I don't know, like what's not to like about summer,
I mean, if I had to be that guy, you had to do a lot more, outdoor chores. You got bugs.
You got to mow the grass.
You got a new mower sitting there in a box right there. You got to do more, I guess, in some negative way. You're busier.
Yeah.
If you have family, I'm devil's advocate here, right? So you have family, you're running around all the time, winter, like you stay inside a little bit more. Right. You're not as busy unless you're doing winter sports,
Yeah, you got
so
kids.
It's good and bad, right? It's like, it's nice sometimes that you get the hibernation. Some people like that,
Exactly.
Get to relax,
Yeah, you got kids, they're cooped up all winter, like there's 6 inches of snow outside. You don't tell them to go outside and play,
Absolutely.
I guess unless you're
Nate. Used to though.
Yeah, you used to.
We used to play in the snow all the time.
But it's a
Nowadays,
different experience.
Just go turn on your
back when
Xbox
we were kids also, like it was one of those things. It's like, all right, go out of the house, go. You know, like your parents needed the house to themselves for a couple hours. Like, go outside, go away, go do something.
Go away.
And then you know, when the street lights come on, come back home.
It used to be the way.
It used to be.
Now you can't go outside. You know, got a comment here. What do you think of that?
Yeah. So just a little backstory. So my fiance, she's a therapist. So she sees this all the time. It's a real thing. You know, seasonal depression is a real thing.
We've talked about that
is it
numerous
Kaylee?
times.
Yes, Kaylee.
Kaylee.
Yeah. Wow, you got that right.
Well, you said it before. I said it wrong the first time. I was trying to like
You'd
say
be-
it. You know, I was
You
trying
would
to
be
get myself
shocked at how
out.
many people say Cali.
It looks like Cali because of
does,
California.
yeah.
You know,
Right,
so
right.
I have not seen that spelling
No, I
before.
correct people frequently.
Yeah. So Kaylee says, now you're speaking my language. Weather has huge effects on your mental health.
Yeah.
And yes, Nate, we have talked about that, but I think it's pertinent to this.
It's a
Oh,
real
absolutely.
thing. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a real thing.
But go on, Ryan. What were you saying?
Yeah, it's a real thing. You know, like I was just touching on, there's something different about, you know, just for the example of if you have kids, you know, if they're rowdy and, you know, they're wanting to do something, it's different in the summertime than say, oh, go outside and play in the yard than it is, okay, now what do you do if there's 6 inches of snow outside? You get them bundled up and you tell them to go outside, or you tell them to, you know, like you said, go play the Xbox. You know, I think there's something, it's a different aspect.
We used to look forward to snow days, though.
True.
As kids, as adults, not so much.
Driving to work sucks in it.
No, I'd encourage all-wheel drive if you can at all times. in any
Or
vehicle.
be like Steve and have a 2-mile drive to work.
That is also great. Or in this day and age, you can work from home and just say fuck it.
I can't.
We don't have that luxury.
No.
You can't have a bunch of them. I guess that'd be great too if you had a bunch of barrels in your home, Ryan.
Yes.
You're like, I happen to work from home today.
Yeah. Well, from that
you have
aspect,
a bunch of samples, sitting there. You're like, I'm just gonna sample this.
yeah. So
I'm busy after 2 p.m.
From a personal
hammered.
life, I love summer, but from a cask manager aspect, I really love the winter because, you know, you need both those seasons. You need really hot summers. You need really cold winters. You know, you want that whiskey to interact with the wood. And
Sure.
So I guess from a professional standpoint, I'm a winter guy, but from a personal standpoint, I'm a summer guy.
But the warehouse where you guys store the barrels is a little bit climate controlled. You don't let it, I mean, you're not just letting it run wild on its own. Like, you keep a limit on it.
So yeah, so unfortunately, because our bottling operation is in the same building, but what I typically like to do is, so, you know, 1 or 2 days during the week, there's a side door next to the barrels that I'll leave open, and so the cold air gets to rush in on that side. So I get a little bit more of that. I can drop the temperature a little bit on my side, but not affect the guy's bottling.
Okay.
Because that has a huge effect on how the labels are being applied. Obviously, we want climate controlled for the label guys, but for me, I want it to be as cold as possible.
You want to hit it a little bit harder.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I want those extremes. So I have
more natural.
slight control, but yeah, to what you're saying, Nate, there's a limitation.
The cold weather, that's what squeezes the barrels and squeezes the juice back out. Right?
Exactly. So yeah, so summertime it's pushing into the wood. Summertime it's coming back into the
Wintertime.
cask.
Wintertime.
Yeah, or yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. It's interesting, and this comment section is getting a little dicey here. Both
Man, there's definitely
men
a
and women
line
out there.
Definitely a line.
men and women out there. My God. All right. So, all right, let's bring that in.
Oh,
You got
that
the
brings
mental
back-
health stuff. I'm not going to go into that. We can. I haven't drank enough for that, but yet I just think that you know, with people that the mental health thing that you know Kaylee's talking about, I agree. It's seasonal depression. We've talked about that on the show. The fact that spring is out, I'm not kidding. It is, I think, still a little bit of a Band-Aid being pulled off, that it only masks it when you have that. We see that all the time. Where I work at the cigar shop at Tinderbox at Easton, you see the moods change, and it always takes about 2 to 3 days. If the weather changes, good or bad, to Nate's point, it's people are doing stuff, they're doing yard work, they're running around doing whatever. It might slow down, but 2 days later, if it stays consistent, they start showing up back to the regular routine, right? Regular scheduled program.
Yeah.
You have people that are in a very good mood, like even in the wintertime, like, it's like the holidays we talk about sometimes, it's like whether you celebrate Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever it might be, if you just celebrate New Year's, you know what I mean? You don't celebrate anything, but it's like that first snowfall. There's still, I think for most people, before they have to go out in it and they're driving through slush and salt and all that stuff, but they see it out the window, like, that's pretty.
Yeah.
But it only takes a couple days to just get, I don't want to say numb to it. I'm not trying to be that, I guess, negative about it, but I think that it's sometimes it's just that shock value of like, it's spring again. We have nice weather. Everyone's in great moods. When Kaylee brings it up, it's like the mental health thing. It's like, how do you get that to be a little bit more consistent? Nate, you brought up that, and I know Ray was saying that, I talk about supplements a lot, but it's like, that was a big thing during COVID. It was a big thing all the time. Seasonal depression. It's like yes, the sun doesn't give you vitamin D, but it helps your body generate the vitamin D and utilize vitamin D. But it's like the fact that we have the resources to hopefully do a little bit better during the lower times of seasonal depression, or if you're not a cold person or cold weather person, you're not an indoor person. I don't like the fact. My biggest thing with being spring, I'll say this, it's not necessarily that it's warmer. Yeah, it's great. And I think that some of the areas you look at and to just touch on the conversation that's going on in the comment section right now.
Oh my gosh.
Is simply that the Midwest is known for people in general not being as thin or healthy as places that are warm all the time, because you are indoors and you don't have to necessarily, you can layer up. In other places you don't layer up as much, but that's not universal at all. I'll say this about spring. What I really like about it is that I don't like waking up when it's dark and then like getting off work and it's dark. It's not the vitamin D. It's not that. It's just like, it's nighttime for me. It's like my body functions differently. Obviously, we do the podcast. We stay up late doing this, even during the wintertime. But it's like you got a heater going. You're all bundled up. I just like the fact that, today it's like you feel like you have more daytime life. You have the ability to just be like, all right, so I'm off work. I got 3 more hours of sunshine. That's nice. Or just daylight. It can be overcast, but at least it's daylight.
Yeah.
Patio weather, especially if your patio is on the west side.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm not saying there's a right or wrong way to do this, but I'm just saying, like, with it being spring, how do you capitalize on it? How do you not turn into that person, Nate, you're saying, where it's like people complain about the cold and then the next thing you know, they're complaining about how hot it is? How do you stay even keeled through these season changes?
I mean,
but you don't want with the whiskey barrels. I understand that. I'm not trying to
say
we
whiskey
love
barrels.
You want the ups
we
and
love
downs.
the cold.
So
and
maybe science and nature is saying that we do need to, as people go through this. I don't know where we're going to go with this.
Well, that's the thing. Like, the seasons are going to come. The seasons are going to change. In the summertime, it's going to be hot. It's going to be humid. In the wintertime, it's going to be cold. There's going to be bad weather, snow, ice, whatever it is. You have to come up with a plan each season with how you're going to deal with that and keep that as a regular thing. Like, what are you going to do to take advantage of whatever the weather is going to be, to where you're still doing something beneficial to yourself, to your health, whether it be your mental health, your physical health. Like, okay, and yeah, when it's warm outside, you can go take a walk. You can run outside. And then when it gets cold, you just shut it all down for 5 months and let that have a negative impact. Or what do? You have to do something regardless of the season, because you're not going to change the seasons. They're going to happen on their own, and they happen on their own every fucking year. It's the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, we're not
you
surprised
can't control
by
it.
this, right?
Yeah,
like, we know this is coming. We have technology. You say run outside.
It's amazing. Some people
they built treadmills.
Yeah. I think
built
that's
indoor tracks.
That's the key, though. It's about finding what that wintertime activity is. So, for example, like a lot of my friends, and what we like to do is we love to go bowling. You can do that year round.
Year round.
In the wintertime, that's like the perfect thing to do. Like,
and because that's it's a social thing. Yeah,
I like walking out of a bowling alley and still light out.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the one difference.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there. Yeah,
you're like, hey, let's go bowling at 4. You get out of there, you're like, God damn it, it's dark. Like,
that's true.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's true.
I there are benefits to it, but I mean, and Nate, I know you're
and I
Ray's
showed
point, seasonal depression, real or not. I mean, it's just sure.
Well, and Steve, a couple years
it's just depression.
Yeah, Steve, a couple years ago, you and I we were both sharing pictures on the community page of us taking walks in the dead of winter and bundled up.
Yeah.
And, do you want to go outside when it's 10 degrees and have to wear 4 layers of clothing to go take a walk? You don't really want to, but you also understand the benefit of doing that, whether it be getting used to the cold and adjusting to it, or just that aspect of being outside and going for a walk. Like, it's not necessarily just the physical benefit of going for the walk. It's also the mental benefit of going outside.
Right?
Yeah.
The scenery's there.
Well,
I just don't like the cold in my hands. That's the worst part about it.
And remember when Bobby Hirschman years ago we had done the challenge of, post 5 pictures a day, and that was during the wintertime. So we were going on walks and stuff and, posting pictures of the snow or, animals that were still outside in that bad weather. Like, that was still something that got us outside and still a way to look around us and see what was beautiful around us, even though the weather sucked. Like, you're still finding the good regardless.
Perspective.
Yeah. Sean says cold weather is better outside. You can add layers. 137. Only so much you can take off. Well, that's the extremes for sure. Yeah. And you can only add so many layers if it's like, say, negative 40. I mean, yeah, they make outerwear for that, but it's not necessarily healthy to the extremes. I'm talking more just in general. I find it interesting, especially after the last few years, is that we did so much. I understand people working from home. They were outside on their patios more. They were taking walks a bit, but it's like all the lifestyle changes that you make to do the remote stuff. You're inside, you're doing all this. And it's like, then all of a sudden it gets warm outside and it's like, well, I don't even get a chance to go to work. I have to be at my house and I just have to be remote in my home office. It's like we built all this technology to battle this, that we can function successfully all year round, no matter what the weather is. And yet we still talk about seasonal depression. We still talk about the same shit that we've been talking about the entire time. And it's like, well, what do you want? What do you want? Like, okay, you like to walk and run outside. We built you a treadmill. You want to be able to see people, get out, we don't want you to be snowed in. You can do that from your iPad, your iPhone. You can do that from your computer. You can do that. I mean, hell, they made a telephone so you can talk to people that aren't even close. Like, we do all this stuff. I feel like you try to battle all this stuff. And then where we're at right now, there's still the seasonal depression. There's still the major influx of just the mental health or mental, changes and just everything physical. It's like, oh, it's spring now, it's summer. Like, oh man, finally. Yeah. That was so terrible. It's like, I'm not saying that, like, I don't feel it a little bit, but I'm like, that's what we talk about in part 2 here. It's like, what the fuck? Like, how do you battle this? Like you said, Nate, we've talked about it before, where it's like, yeah, you have to have a plan going into the season. Like, what do you want to do?
Well, a year ago,
I like walking outside. It's like, okay, well, buy boots.
Yeah. A year ago, I posted a picture on Facebook where I literally took my laptop outside and sat on my patio in the sun because it was a nice clear day and it was fairly warm. And I went and sat outside with my laptop and did work. Yes, I was working from home, but guess what? That means I get to go outside and I'm not stuck in an office building.
I think within reason. I mean, like, so we just did a Tinderbox. We did the Smoking Tent event, which we do in March, which is because we collaborate with Fido Irish Pub next door, and they do a big St. Patrick's Day party, and so they put up a tent. So then we do our Smoking Tent event in that tent, and it has to be March because of the cost of the tent and reserving the parking lot and all that stuff. You guys are doing your festival. Do you guys do any winter festivals?
So we do. Yeah, we have Nochino Fest.
Okay.
Nochino Fest is
December,
is around October. Yeah,
Booty Hunt was October.
Sometime in the fourth quarter. Yeah. It's Booty Hunt. Then Nochino Fest happens around December.
Okay.
We do events like that.
Is it as successful as what you think BourbonFest, or is it the fact that you guys have space outside in the parking lots that people are going to be hanging out if the weather's nice?
Yeah. So that's a great question. So summertime versus wintertime, our tentpole events are a little different. Obviously, Nochino Fest, there's that possibility of snow, so we have to kind of plan around that. And, our marketing team does a really nice job of setting up, stations, events inside that are still engaging, still entertaining.
Yeah. You have to plan for that.
Yeah.
Right?
You have to plan for that. Exactly. But there is something that's much different about, like, if you go to Four Peel Fest, that happens in the summertime, lot of people around that too. It's just a different atmosphere. But no, that's a great point of how do you differentiate summertime to wintertime? How do you keep it engaging, keep it fun? With
it's
being
right?
inside, yeah,
it's different, yeah. And you have limited space outdoors. Obviously, if you have a parking lot like you guys have, or that space you have there, if you guys were going to do it, we get that a lot of Tinderbox where it's like, oh, you guys should do this, off site somewhere, bigger inside. If you're going to do it in March, and it's like, well, we can't.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys should do this in June, July, and it's like it doesn't matter. I think that's to my point. What the point I'm trying to make is that yes, it might be easier, but people are like, yeah, you should do it in June. You don't even have to have a tent. It's like, what if it rains that day?
Exactly.
There's so many different factors that you're always going to have to deal with something. It's just about, I think there's a sense of making the best of the options that you have, the opportunities you have. And I think that's where, like, even with us, like, March 18th this year, when we did the Smoking Tent event, we did pre-sale tickets like you guys did for this event coming up, BourbonFest on April 22nd. And this is something that, yes, some people didn't come. There's about 10 or so people or more. There's 10 or more people that didn't come, but they still wanted their cigars. They still wanted, like what you guys are doing, like, hey, I can't make it, I'm going to get my bottle still. That's great. That's absolutely great. But we still had 250 people there. And it was cold that day.
Yeah.
And yes, people said, like, man, it's cold. They were still there.
Yeah.
They still had fun.
It's about the experience.
Sometimes
the community.
Yeah.
It's about, like what Nate was saying about, you have to have a plan to a point. You can apply that to so many things where it's like, yes, like, so that day, March 18th for the Smoking Tent event, it was not the 60-degree weather day that we've had for the Smoking Tent event in years past, just randomly. It is March. You don't know what the weather's going to be. So you basically plan for anything, right? If it's nicer, yes, people can just kind of float out in the open areas and just enjoy the sun and all that stuff. Didn't happen this year. So everyone's in there. They're bundled up.
They kept coming in the shop.
They keep coming in the shop. People like left to go to another restaurant, came back in, whatever it might be. But it's like they still came because there was a commitment to it. You already bought a ticket, right? You already said you're going to do something. I see those memes and everything like that about like introverts and all that stuff. It's like, man, people are like, hey, you coming to the, you're going to go out tonight or whatever. It's like, or you had plans and they fall through and you're like, thank God. It's like you see all these different type of personalities, but I think there is a little bit of something. I'm not for everyone, but I do believe that if you commit to something, whether it might even be out of your comfort zone, or I am a summer person, so during the winter months, I'm just not going to do shit. Well, you are feeding that depression. You're more of a social person, but because the weather sucks, you just decide not to do anything. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
I really think there's a point, and I'm guilty of it sometimes too. You know what I mean?
I think everybody is.
Yeah, you're right, Brian. I mean, I think everyone is, but I think that if you actually commit to something, you say, hey, all right, I'm going to do this Friday. Hey, I'm going to go to, BourbonFest on Saturday the 22nd. I'm going to do it. And you wake up that day and you're like, I don't really want to go. I don't want to be around people and all that stuff. Fucking go out. Just do it. You're going to probably have a good time. And if you really don't want to, don't do it. I'm not going to say you have to do whatever you want to do. But there is a level of, if you do what you said you were going to do, especially to yourself, I think that you get something from that, whether it be winter, whether it be spring, whatever the season might be. Don't wait for it's like, well, it's going to be warm in a couple months, and that's when I'm going to start doing something. It's like, well, in the meantime, something bad happened, and you didn't get to do it.
Procrastination is the enemy.
Yeah, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait to crack a good bottle, right? So you buy this Uncut Unfiltered. You buy that cigar that is that real, like, expensive, or you're in Cuba, or you're in this, whatever it might be. You have this. You're with this. I'm going to save this cigar for a special occasion. I'm going to save this bottle for a special occasion. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but I would also encourage you to at least crack the bottle and enjoy what you have, just because you have. That's why you got it.
Yeah.
You committed to something. You did. Now do that. Don't wait for spring. It's easier. Yeah, sure. Everything's great when it's all ideal and it's a kind of this euphoric type of all the stars align, and now I'm going to crack this bottle. I'm going to invite all my friends and family over, and I'm going to light this cigar I've been sitting on for years that I just was waiting for a special occasion. And then you don't have the opportunity to do that. Like what?
You've been on the receiving end of a special occasion bottle.
I'm sure. Which one are you talking about?
The pick that I have, like this was a bottle I bought.
Oh, the Angel Envy?
Yeah.
Sure.
So it was a bottle I bought back in September.
That did pan out for you, so
Yeah.
I appreciate you going against what I'm saying here.
Yeah, it was a bottle I bought back in 2013, and I always used to say, yeah, I'm going to save this for a special occasion. And then, saying his name 3 times now, Brad Grimsley. When he showed up, when he was still in town, I told him about that bottle. He goes, 2 things. Sometimes special occasion is it's fucking Tuesday.
Yeah.
Also, and this one was a little darker of a comment. He goes, yeah, your way home, someone might cross center line and you may never have got to drink that bottle that you bought.
Mm-hmm.
So when 2 years ago, when Steve and I went to Louisville, I took that bottle with me and I cracked it.
Mm-hmm.
I've only shared that bottle with 3 people and I've never drank that bottle by myself.
Yeah. Something I've learned, just from, my fiance, she's a godsend. I tell that to everybody. My coworkers are probably sick and tired of me talking about her, but anyway,
I strongly doubt that.
But anyway, it's about making a plan and following through. Whether or not you're in the mood to do it, make a plan. Like you were talking about, Nate, if you have a special bottle, like I'm going to open it tomorrow. Tomorrow comes, whether or not you actually want to open it up, just do it.
Do it.
Yeah, just do it. It might be a fantastic pour. You might really enjoy it when you really didn't think you would enjoy it. It's about just, stepping out of that comfort zone and doing it.
Yeah, and I think you have a little bit of control there, and there's a reward to that, because if you want to be I'll be the devil's advocate, you save that bottle for that special occasion, and then you actually crack it with your family or your loved ones or whatever I got the promotion, I got, whatever it might be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it sucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's so good. No, thanks for sharing this. Like,
absolutely.
Congratulations again. I'll see you later.
Yeah. And
I'm
I'm
anything else to try. I don't want to drink all of it. You know what I mean? Because you saved it. Let's save it for the next special occasion that I won't be at. Because I'll bring a bottle next time.
And I think everyone's a victim of that sometimes. Like me myself, I have a ton of quote unquote special occasion whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
That I save for special moments or special dates or for when people are over or whatnot. And it's hard for me to just force myself. If it's just sitting there, what really is the special occasion? What's it doing just sitting there? It's not doing any good.
Like you can still share it with other people, but you can still get into it by yourself or with those in your household. Like you can sit there and go, you know what? I really like this bottle. I've been wanting to try this bottle. I'm going to go ahead and open this bottle and have a few pours out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll save some for, certain company or whatever. But I have some whiskey and some wine in my house that is wine. You can't necessarily just open and I'm going to let this sit out.
No, you got a couple days. That's it, man.
Exactly.
You're done.
Yeah. But I do have a couple bottles of wine for when Steve and Kristen come over. But I've
no pressure. But
no pressure on you
thank
guys.
you for the invite.
It's more for Kristen.
The fuck?
I've got whiskey for when you come over.
No, perfect.
But no, it some of the stuff I've tried, I've had, maybe I buy 2 bottles and I have one for myself and save the other one for when people come over to share with other people.
And that for me, that's the ultimate. That's what keeps me going in whiskey. Whiskey for me is there's something different between enjoying a special bottle by yourself and enjoying it with others. Especially if you get something really rare, being able to share it with others, that's special.
Yeah.
That's special to me. Anyway.
Well, and Steve and I have talked about it before. So obviously right now OHLQ has a lottery going on with some certain bottles. They have lotteries throughout the year.
For those who don't know, OHLQ is the Ohio Liquor Department, basically, is the state run. So they do a lottery for very hard to find bottles that most states they'd send them out, or the distributors would get them to certain not agencies, but stores. And then they would just have basically secondary prices on it. They can charge whatever they want for it.
And that bottle will sit on a shelf and collect dust.
Yeah.
Whereas in Ohio, you know, you're never going to find it on the shelf, but you got a chance to buy it at MSRP.
I just want a clarification for people who don't know.
But Steve and I have talked about it before. You know, so there are some of those bottles that, you know, if either one of us, and I've told Steve, like, if I win the right to buy this bottle, I'm not selling it.
Yeah.
You know, unless I could completely buy a new car with it, I'm not selling this bottle. This is something that we're going to do a podcast, or maybe not even do a podcast. This is going to be something that we just hang out, and I'm going to bring this bottle. We're going to crack it. We're going to try it, whether it's a podcast or just hanging out. Like, we're going to share this bottle.
There's a bottle on that lottery right now that's about
$1,100,
$1,150. Yeah,
Victor's 20 year.
Victor's 20. Yeah,
that's where I would secure it, and I would sell it at face value to someone that wants it, because I'm not going to drop $1,100 just to have a bottle that I'm going to share. Like, I'm going to be like, all right, any of my whiskey friends want this bottle? I want it. I'll go buy it, and then you can give me the $1,149 for the bottle. Like, it's not it. That's, I get what you're saying though. Absolutely. These guys are saying out here, you know, that looking at these comments, it's pretty cool. But every day is a special occasion.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I think there's that you have to walk that line a little bit of, you know, I get it. Like, with it being spring and what we're talking about right now, they're related a little bit different. I don't want to say live recklessly. Don't, you know, you want to save some money. You want to have some retirement. You want to, like, some of these things, right? You want to save things, whether it be special bottles, whether it be retirement, whether it be, you know, whatever you want to share with someone. It's good to look forward to, like, a vacation. It's, you know, certain things you want to plan for the future. But I don't think that the seasons changing is something that you should have in your everyday life. That it's like, all right, for the next 2-3 months, this is not my season. I'm not going to be myself. I'm not going to be social. No, I think you need to find a way that you can be more yourself, given the circumstances, right? I don't think that there is a reason for weather to determine how you feel as a person.
Yeah.
You know, I think that there are things you want to save for a special thing. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to invite people over for a barbecue in January because I don't think people are going to enjoy it. I don't think it has the same effect, right?
You'll be outside by yourself, tending the grill while everyone else is inside.
Which I'm okay with too, because I've had people over at the house, you know.
We've had Super Bowl parties here.
We do Super Bowl parties,
and then,
but it's typically not a grilling, you know, event. But I mean, that's honestly, to your point though, still had people over at my house.
Yeah.
You know, we still had people over. We found that it's like, hey, this is a reason to do it. You know what I mean? It's you can still have
Southie
is a different time of the year. I had my neighbors over. I think it was December. It was before Christmas. So like we had, you know, a couple of the neighbors across the street and the other in the neighborhood and some friends. And it was just, hey guys, come over. We're going to do like just some basic food and do drinks, hang out. You know, there was no like occasion. It was just like a way to get people engaged. And first and foremost, it was for my girlfriend, Kristen, and I to continue our social life as well. It was like, all right, no one else. And this is not, if they listen to this, it's not because no one invited us to something, but it's like, there are so many people that they wait for good weather or a season to be able to like, hey, I'm going to invite people over to do like, you know, we're going to smoke some meat. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. It's like, but when you at least put that call out there, when you do that, hey, we're going to have some people over. You guys, what day are you guys free to come over for some drinks? Let's do a happy hour at my house. You know, you do that. And all of a sudden people start saying yes. And sure enough, they showed up. They hung out later night than any of us wanted, because there was the outlet. Someone gave the venue to have that. And I think it's refreshing because we didn't wait for spring. It was winter. It was dark and gray all the time in the Midwest. But we're like, hey, let's invite people over, see what they're doing. Sure enough, all my neighbors, like the people that were invited, they showed up. We had a great time, and we talked about it for a week. There's some control over it. There's some voluntary actions, and I think that's the big thing. Is there's the action to it, and I think the fact that it's spring, it makes it a lot easier. But going back to what Nate said and what I was saying earlier, also is like, yeah, you have that initial surge of like, oh man, it's so nice outside. This is great. And then you talk to him 2 weeks later, and it's like, how's everything going? I said, it's all right.
Yeah.
When I saw you 2 weeks ago, you were like, oh, like you were excited about going out golfing. You were out like doing this. You're like, oh, you got to mow your lawn. You're like, yeah, I got to mow it again. You're like, well, like, yeah, that's what's going to happen. Like, you knew you're going to have to keep mowing it. You knew you're going to have to. It's going to get hot. You're like, yeah, man, got sunburn. It's like, well, okay. Yeah, I don't go outside. I can't go outside for the next week. So I'm sunburned. It's like, well, maybe be smarter about this.
Yeah.
Like, let's roll through the seasons. Let's roll through the changes. Let's have a plan of how can we hopefully enjoy life all the time.
Absolutely.
Or like one of the get-togethers you hosted last year, towards the end of the night, someone had asked about what we saw as issues with society, and we had talked about people just don't have a conversation and talk and hang out with people anymore. And that person goes, okay, if you see that's a problem, like, what are you doing about it? And Steve goes, I fucking host a podcast and invite people over to my garage every fucking week.
That was on my patio.
It was on your patio
that they were all invited over for.
Exactly.
Like, what do you do about it? I'm like, well,
I have a cookout and I host a podcast, which everyone's invited to. It's like
that. And they looked at me and they're like, all right.
Like, you asked me,
I can't debate that.
You asked me what a problem was. I gave you a problem, and then I gave you a fucking solution to it.
Right.
I think that's where it's on, you as an individual too. Like I said, like Steve, if you invite me over, like, I need to decide, okay, I'm going, whether that day I feel like it or not.
Yeah.
That can completely change your mood if you're not.
Well, and to that point, real quick, if you do decide that you're not feeling well, you're not feeling up to it. If you have those, it is mental health issues, but you're having an off day. Everyone has that. I'm not going to like classify that necessarily as a blanketing mental health issue or something that you need to seek help on. But we all have our off days. But if I invite you again, you're like, yeah, I'll be there. And then you don't come. Third time, hey, yeah, I'll be there. And then you don't come. It's like, guess what? You're no longer invited. Not because I don't want you there.
Yeah.
It's because I didn't invite them this time because I don't want to put I don't want to put that pressure on them. They say they're going to come and then they don't. Mm-hmm. I don't want to do that because I don't know how to take it, and clearly they don't know how they feel.
Right.
And I think you find those trends.
Heck, we had someone this year. They bought a ticket for the 10 event, and it was going to be their first one. And they showed up. But then when they were hanging out in the shop afterwards, they had told me that the night before, they were almost talking themselves out of coming to the event the next day because they were so nervous about coming to this event by themselves for the first time. They had never really hung out with any of the people that are regulars at the shop. They had never come to one of these big events. Like, the biggest event they had come to was the Espinosa prime rib dinner.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that was 40 people. Like, that was the biggest event they'd gone. Here's the Smoking 10 event, 250 people, plus all the vendors, plus all the staff, plus the staff from Fido's out there.
A lot of sensory input.
Yes.
Like, big time.
Yeah. So
it's overwhelming to some people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like going to the BourbonFest thing. It's like,
yeah,
I've been to Watershed. I really like, I like going in there for dinner. I grab a bottle. It's like, you come to BourbonFest. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Same kind.
Yeah. So this person had told me, like, they were very hesitant, almost talking themselves out of coming to the Smoking 10 event, but they came anyway, and they had an absolutely amazing time, and they were so thankful that they came to it.
If you're talking about the same person I'm thinking you're talking about, they had a question for the Q&A. We have a panel of who's of the industry, and they had a question, and they like flagged me down, and I was like, all right, yeah, because I run the MC of it, and no, I don't want to ask it. I'm like, okay, cool. So I went over to that table. I was like, here, go ahead. And they're like, and they asked a question. They absolutely loved it. Just like that little push. You know what I mean? Ryan, what do you look forward to in the spring? You said you're an outdoor person.
Oh,
you
yeah,
like the warmer weather. You're not a big winter.
We're definitely outdoor, more outdoor.
So what do you and Kaylee
indoor.
like to do? What do you look forward to right now that it's finally like hit 70 some degrees?
We love having bonfires.
Okay.
So that's a little harder to do in the winter. It's a little less enjoyable.
You need more fire.
Yes, you need more fire.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
But yeah, we're definitely we have 2 small dogs, so we love having them outside with us. You know, watching them running around.
Do you invite people over to the bonfire? Or it's just you guys and the dogs.
Typically, it's just us.
Nice.
We're very much introverted, I would say. We have our close group of friends that we hang out with. That we'll go over and hang out, have some drinks. But yeah, that's kind of our thing. Is we just like hanging out in the backyard, having a fire, putting some barbecue on, and just sitting and relaxing.
You're a hiker. Not really.
Used to be, not so much anymore.
Yeah, I get it.
As you get older, it loses its appeal.
Yeah.
In my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, it's different for everyone, but
yeah, it's different for everyone. But yeah, we just like it's something about the fresh air, the sunlight, the warm fire, roasting marshmallows. It's the whole ambiance itself is something that's more enjoyable than doing it in 20-degree weather and an inch of snow outside.
Do you feel like it's the fact that you have the option to go outside versus that in the wintertime you can go outside, but it's like
I think there's
this time of the year it's like, hey, do you want to do a bonfire? You want to stay inside? You want to watch some
You have
Netflix?
more options.
I think it's easier for sure. Easier
you
in the
feel like
summertime.
you have options.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's much easier when it's 75 degrees and the sun setting, the stars are out, than if it's completely dark and, like I said, 20 degrees and an inch of snow on the ground.
I'm all for the calendar. I mean, like, are you a baseball fan at all?
Love baseball.
Spring's baseball.
Absolutely.
It's
Go
like
Guardians.
There you go. Everyone still calls them the Indians in the shop, which is fine.
that's another debate. That's another podcast.
I know. Wow. Yeah. There's a lot
There's
to
a
unpack
great joke
there.
about that name too.
There's a lot to unpack there. But I think that it's I'm all for the calendar, and I think I want to kind of turn it real quick as we get to the last part of this part 2 here, is that I don't want to come across as saying that you got to figure this out no matter what season it is, no matter what's going on in your life, no matter what is. And I think that's why I asked that question, is that when you have more options with the spring or the warmer weather, you can go outside if you want to, you're comfortable, or you can stay inside if you don't feel like doing it. Is that I feel as though that people in general, when they feel like they have control and they have options, and they can choose to do something, that it's a much easier state of mind than when the outside factors are controlling what you can and can't
Less
do.
forced.
Absolutely.
And I think that is something that a lot of times people don't talk about. And it'd be interesting. I don't know if she's still on, but I mean, at some point is that, Kaylee, it's like someone that is a therapist and does this, is that it's a great correlation to some people that when we talk about like seasonal depression, when we talk about the differences of seasons, is that it's such an easy transition for some people going into the more option seasons than it is when life is controlling your options.
Yeah.
And I think that goes into your career, your job, when you feel like you don't have as much control and you just have to do what you can do to get by. That's very defeating.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you were talking earlier, Ryan, about when you talked to Greg, the co-founder of Watershed, about this project, the Uncut Unfiltered, and you said, well, what are we doing with this? He's put trust in you. You have options. You can do, in a sense, what you feel like you want to do. There's some people that will not do well with that kind of pressure.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, no, I need guidance. I need someone to tell me what to do.
Yeah.
It's different personalities. So this is not for everyone. But I think that in general, there is a little bit of that when you have a little bit of the freedom of being able to have options, it's a little bit more easygoing. It's a little bit more, there's more happiness. It's that feeling that I see in people, like on a day like today. It's like, it's great. Get out, I mean, I want to wash my car. I want to be outside. I can do that. If I want to stay inside in the air conditioning, I can do that. These are first world issues, by the way. But it's like those types of issues are very apparent when you control some of those things. It is very quietly putting pressure on you to be able to, do you take control? Do you do it no matter what? or do you just succumb to the I guess that pressure outside that you have no control over?
Yeah. I think having, just speaking from personal experience, that support system to, you know, coax you out of that comfort zone, you know, something that Kaylee does for me, you know, when we all get it. It's, you know, it's wintertime. You don't want to do anything. What she'll ask me is, well, what can I do? Or what can we do? Like, what do we do to get out of this
relationship with a therapist? That's it's a good thing. And it's
you know, I love her to death. She's the best thing that's ever happened to me. But yeah, she makes me think.
That's good.
She makes me think. And I think that's important with any, you know, partner in life is you have to have balance. And, you know, when one of us is feeling down or feeling not like we want to do anything, you know, it's that encouragement to get you out there and, you know, let's get out of this too, right? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And
not just riding through it.
Absolutely.
Nate, what do you think about all of this with what we're talking about here?
I always look forward to the spring because that gives me more time where I can sit outside on my patio, take advantage of that. Like, so last year in May was when we moved into the duplex that we're in right now. And it has a screened in porch on the back of the house. And our neighbor never used that at all. Like, they always just let the dogs out and the dogs just run out the back door and into the yard. But they never sat outside. And when we first moved there, like, that was one of the first things I started doing because it was May, warm weather. I was sitting out on the patio because I was enjoying the warm weather. But I also knew, and I had this conversation with myself, I was like, as great as it is to sit outside and smoke cigars and drink whiskey, because I was still working from home, so I can stay up as late as I wanted to because I didn't have to go anywhere to work the next day.
You had to work the next day.
I had to work.
I mean, you can't just stay.
I had to work, but I mean, there were definitely some, 2 a.m. nights.
Less video calls. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I also knew that, I can't just sit out there every single night because I have someone in the house that wants to spend time with me.
Yeah. Is she sitting out there with you?
Sometimes, yes. Like even today, like I said, I spent all afternoon sitting outside. My wife's in the basement working. But when she got done with work, she grabbed a book and she came and sat outside with me. So that was great because now she's able to take advantage of that nice weather as well. Sure. But, I want to take advantage of the weather. There's part of me that sits there and goes, yes, I want to sit outside every single night as long as it's above 50. But then I also know, like, hey, there's someone else in here that I need to spend time, because a lot of times
she comes out there sometimes.
She does.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of times when I'm sitting out there, especially if I'm by myself, where I've got my tablet out there and I'm watching movies while I'm smoking a cigar and having a drink or 5, whatever it is.
What have you?
But it's like, I can do this by myself, or I can go inside and have a drink and watch movies with my wife.
Yeah.
Like, yes. And so what am I trading off there? Like smoking cigars or spending time with my wife? It's like, maybe we, which one of those do we give more weight to?
I don't see the question there.
It was rhetorical. It was a rhetorical question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But no, I love this weather because I get to do that more often.
Yeah. You have options.
I have options.
Again, it goes back to what I'm saying. You have options.
Yeah.
You're not controlled by outside factors as much. You have the option to sit outside, enjoy that. They can come outside. Jess can come outside and enjoy that, or you can go inside. It's so impactful that you can actually have options.
And one thing that's funny is there's a lot of people out there. I'll say there's a lot of spouses out there that if their significant other is spending every night like outdoors on the patio by themselves, smoking cigars and drinking whiskey, they're like, that's fine. My wife is one of those. She's like, hey, come inside because I want to spend time with you too.
Yeah.
And that's how.
and I know that. I know that. So I have to make the conscious decisions. Like, all right, yes, I spent the last 3 nights out there by myself. All right, tonight we're going inside.
So you're doing a 1-on-3?
No, I'm not the
I'm just
exact
kidding.
ratio.
I'm just kidding.
She just texted.
I had to. I'm sorry. I knew.
She
that.
just texted
Shot
me. So
taken.
let's see. Let's see what that message is.
Jess, you're a saint. We all appreciate you.
Oh, she goes, I need to find a better way to sit when I'm outside.
What does that mean? You need a more comfortable
I was
chair?
gonna say, comfier chair.
Well, that could be. But even then, like, I still need to make sure that, hey, hope you enjoy the weather. I'm going to watch this movie.
No,
Like,
you get a better, like a Bluetooth speaker or something, like put a TV out there.
All that has been talked about in
All
my
right.
head. We've got enough TVs.
It's been talked about in your head.
Yep.
Oh, cool.
We have enough TVs that we can throw on outside when it's warm.
I think you should just do it. It's covered, right?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. The fact that it's spring, let's go on the positives real quick as we roll through the last part of the part 2 here, is that there are some good things with spring. I love, again, I'm a baseball fan. I love the fact that it comes around. I'm also a big Chicago Bears fan. So I am big on the fact that NFL Sundays, that's the Sunday fun day for me.
Yeah.
And everyone has their different traditions or what they do. If they have kids, they don't have kids. Like, I don't have kids. And it's like, I still like going out to a bar. And again, being in Columbus, I'm a Bears fan. So you either have to get the NFL ticket or you go out. I like going out, getting a bucket of Miller Lite. I'm a whiskey guy, but it's like, I don't necessarily I can't afford to go to bars on Sundays and watch a Bears game and maybe the 4:00 games. And I'm drinking the whiskey all the time. Can't afford it. I can't afford it with a DUI either. So there's multiple points there. I look forward to the different seasons. Spring is so great. I don't like mowing my lawn. I had to buy a new lawnmower. It's fine being a homeowner, but there are so many, no matter what the season is, you have responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what you feel more comfortable with, that fades. That's the whole thing of, it's like, oh, it's finally warm. And then you talk to them a couple weeks later. It's like, yeah, I still have to do this. I still have to go to my job. I still have to do. It's like, exactly. This is just, there's so many positives on spring for me, is that it is getting warmer. I do think that growing up in the Midwest, still live in the Midwest, there's a reason that there are a lot of people that live in that nice weather, spring, summer, if that's your thing, all year round. But there's always the looming potential negatives. It's like, love to live in Florida, hurricanes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like you can find a negative in no matter what the season is. But with this, it's like, I like having this. This is a change of season because it's like it's a little bit of a reset. It's something to look forward to if you like it. It's the same thing with the Hallmark holidays we talk about sometimes on this show. Is like, yeah, do you need Valentine's Day? Do you need some of these things to show someone that you really care about them? You might, and that should introduce you to other issues that maybe you should do it more often. But sometimes when the calendar comes around, when the weather comes around, you can actually have a little bit of a reset. And hopefully you're not coming out of a reset period that you needed it. You weren't low. You didn't have a bad winter. You had a good winter. And it's like, now I'm looking forward to spring. Now I'm looking forward to summer. Now I can't wait for fall. Now winter is going to be great because we're going to do this. And I like running outside or walking outside, but over the summer I bought a treadmill when it was cheap, and now I'm going to, walk in the basement. I'm going to do this, or I'm going to buy boots. I'm going to do this stuff. There's so many ways to combat it where you can continue to grow. And I think that's something as we get older and hopefully as you go through life, you have the ups and downs, you have the setbacks, and you have the big successes. And when you come back to it's spring, baby, it's like, yeah, it's spring. Let's go.
Yeah.
And it's not because man, fucking winter sucked. I just don't feel like myself. It's like, now it's spring. Take it to 11, like you guys were joking about earlier.
Definitely.
All right. So this is where we go in closing remarks of part 2 here. And I appreciate it. That single barrel was very good. Nate, you have any of that?
No, I've still been working on the unfiltered.
You say like it's a chore.
It's a tough job.
It is a task.
All right. So, Nate, I'm going to ask you closing remarks so you can kind of lead it in. And you know what we do here on closing remarks is just kind of a summary of what you got from this.
So spring is one of those where, I think a lot of people, especially here in Ohio, because of how drastic our winters and summers are, they kind of look forward to spring, but it's never long enough for us because it either is not as warm as we'd like it, raining too much, or it just goes by in a hurry and all of a sudden it's fucking 80, 90 degrees every single day.
Yeah.
And that's going to come. We know that. But I think a lot of people always look at spring as, especially when you, like I said earlier, when you start stringing together a few nice days, like we're turning the corner.
Yeah.
And be ready for it. Take full advantage of it while you can. And we've talked about this, because we've talked about seasonal depression and stuff like that before. Don't wait on the calendar or the weather report before doing something about it, taking advantage of certain situations. Obviously, when it's warmer, you can take advantage of being outside. But that doesn't mean you have to, hold up inside the house from November all the way through March. I think there are some people that do that. But I liked what Ryan said, where a lot of times during the winter they go bowling. Like that's a social thing to do.
Yeah.
I work at a cigar shop, so the days that I'm there, like even during the wintertime, like that's a social thing. I'm hanging out with people. I'm talking to people. With my new job being in retail, I'm talking to hundreds of people every single day. And I love that. And I know I started there in February, so I haven't gone through like a full winter working there, but
people drink in the winter.
Really? Do they?
That's what I've heard.
I can tell you they do.
More so.
Sales are great.
But I've even heard horror stories about how Carfagnas gets in December. Like, we think Tinderbox at Easton gets bad. Ooh, this takes it to another level. So I'm looking forward to that. But also, just like I said, don't wait for, the weather to dictate how you live your life. Don't wait for the calendar. Do something, even when it's not necessarily the best time. People always joke every single year when it finally hits spring about like, all the people that worked out during the wintertime, they've got their beach bod, and here I am with my taco bod. It's like, well, what were you doing during the winter? Like those people put in effort.
Sure.
It's the same thing when it comes to your mental attitude. Like there are some people that when spring hits, it's not as drastic a change to them mentally because they've done things during the winter.
More consistency.
Yeah. To be consistent and have that mental health or physical health, whatever it is. So even when warm weather hits, like it's just another day to them. There are other people that, they need that weather. But I think if you're always waiting on a day on the calendar or a weather report, you are giving up control of your own life.
Yeah, good point. Ryan, how about you for closing remarks? On your first podcast ever.
First podcast ever.
Like I said, very different part two.
Yeah. Yeah. Very enjoyable though. I think it's about kind of, echoing what Nate's saying is you need to find those things, outside of the nice weather. You need to find those things that make you happy. Find those things that keep you engaged. If you're not feeling like doing much, step out of your comfort zone. Do those things that, be
on a podcast.
Be on a podcast. Yeah. Do those things that, sometimes being uncomfortable is okay.
Yeah.
It grows you as a person. It gives you good experience or bad. But I feel like there is no good or bad experience. You learn from it and, you change your train of thought about, what do I do different next time? It's about always keeping engaged and, you need to do things that, make you happy. You can't just let it get you down and, you know, let it get to you. Like, you need to always work, always keep working.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, go with your core product there.
Yeah, I'm gonna finish off with the 4-year here.
4-year. I'm gonna take some more of that so I can not cheers with an empty glass.
It's almost like working backwards.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Perfect.
This single barrel. Ooh, 129.8.
Yeah, it drinks differently than the Uncut Unfiltered for sure. Did you take a sip yet?
Not yet. Still letting my mouth cool off from taking a giant swig of the Uncut Unfiltered.
It's not a competition here.
Yeah.
It's spring, baby. My thing, man, great points by both of you. And I love, you see who's commenting here.
Aaron Harris.
Aaron Harris. We'll see you guys next week. But it's really absolutely all the things you guys said. And I'll add to this. I don't want to reiterate a whole lot or repeat what we're saying here. Think about, and I've done this before, and I'm in a decent point in my life right now. When did you get engaged?
December
of this year.
22. Yeah.
Okay.
So we've been engaged about 5 months.
So this is the big thing that I like to think about with the seasons, is that ideally everyone thinks that it's like, I'm more of a spring summer person, or I'm more of a fall winter, or whatever it is, right? If you think about what your last spring was and what was going on in your life, how different is it this year?
Mm-hmm.
Ryan, you weren't engaged, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully this is going to be a better spring.
Hands down.
Nate, where were you at career-wise last spring? Very different place.
I was about 9 months into a job that I did 3 hours a day of work for. But it was miserable.
There it is.
Even though,
Yep.
To your point, the crazy thing,
you already know my point.
during the last couple of years, we
I
had so many people that were like, I only want to work from home. This is great. I was fucking miserable working from home.
So that is, you're right. My point is that we do this. All right, Aaron, calm down. No.
Man, throwing shots.
I know. I take it as a compliment, but I also say, anyway, my whole thing is that the seasons, we oversimplify so many things in life. Seasons are one of them. We think it's so easy, like, oh man, it's warm weather and all that stuff. You've had a shitty spring before in your life. Mm-hmm. Shit wasn't going well. Your job wasn't going well. Your relationship, your health, whatever it might be, it was a bad fucking spring. And yet we put it out there. It's like, oh man, it's finally warm again. It's like, oh no. If it was finally warm again, maybe you were coming out of a bad winter. But I'm saying, like, this spring, hopefully.
Feeding into it, Steve.
Oh man!
Thank you, Aaron Harris.
Charity shirt, but whatever. No, I think that this is something that we have to look at all the angles. That this spring, hopefully, if it is a bad spring, that you realize that next spring will be better, because you do things through the summer, the fall, the winter. And if it's a good spring, you need to do the best you can, all facets, to make sure that the next spring, that 2024, when we come back into April of next year and we sit down on this.
You're out of control, sir.
Aaron's been drinking.
You're out of control.
Can't wait for next week. Aaron Harris is commenting. I hope you guys tune in live.
Oh.
But no, I what I'm saying is that the seasons will always change, and whatever's going on in your life is that you hope that it's not just consistency. It's not just that you wait for the next season. It's that you are doing things outside of all the outside factors, that you can actually grow, and that even if you had the best spring barbecue, whether it's you and your fiance, next year, hopefully it's going to be you and your wife. And now all of a sudden, the following spring, it's going to bring something else. Friends. I don't know if you guys want kids, but it's like all these things, is that you build a life and memories, not only determined by seasons that are changing, but they actually help you remember what was so great about spring. It's not the fact that it's warmer. It's not the fact that the grass is growing. It's not the birds chirping. All of those things are a framework around what was happening in your life.
Mhm.
And I love thinking about the fact that for you, that you're engaged now, and with you, Nate, having this great job, and everyone out there, whatever's going on in this year, bad or good, is that next year, the positives of the seasons changing, that's what really frames the memories, which is why you actually enjoy this time of the year. It's not the sunshine. That's why it's so short-lived. Yeah, I got to mow the lawn again. Yeah, no, I'm just going to try to, it was great. I saw you a couple weeks ago. It was great. What's going on in your life? We talk about smell. The sense of smell is so strong for memory. I think that people remember the seasons changing because the grass, you can smell the grass. You can remember, like if you're a baseball fan, you have those baseball memories. You have all this stuff, and I think that all of these different senses that are being triggered by the seasons changing, that's what actually frames where you are in your life at that moment, and that's why you like spring. That's why you like summer, fall.
Just keep going.
No, I'm good. Guys, happy Whiskey Wednesday. Got Aaron Harris out there. Can't wait for you next week.
Troublemaker.
Can't wait. Guys, cheers. Happy Whiskey Wednesday.
Yeah, cheers. Thank you.
Thank
guys
you
for
so much
having
for coming
this
here.
Is great.
Thanks for
With the bell.
sharing.
Absolutely.
Guys, enjoy
Cheers,
the
everybody.
week. We'll see you next week. Happy spring.
Come out to BourbonFest. Get your tickets.
April 22nd.